Howdy, 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 everybody. Welcome one, welcome all to Game and Ramble. This is the Ramble Report, episode 4 or 5, or whatever the hell episode this is. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Um, a little bit of a delay on the record. Not really a delay. I don't think we ever set in stone a schedule. We were trying to hit for Thursdays and Fridays, but here we are on a Sunday, so a couple days late. But
Mm.
we and then we didn't do last week because it was Summer Game Fest. The pretty much everything news related was Summer Game Fest related. Xbox show, Summer Game Fest show, this, that, and the other. So there wasn't a whole lot of news to report on last week other than that. So we hit all that, and then we grabbed a couple of the stories from last week that we thought were relevant and worth discussing here today. So we'll be going over all of that good shit. It's a lot of a lot of interesting news on the docket this week.
Yeah, I don't. I was gonna say it leaned more on the positive side, and then I started looking for it, and it's like, yeah, maybe not.
There's some good stuff in here
There's
though.
some good stuff, but I was looking for it, and then there's like, oh, that sucks, though. That kind of sucks. So,
Hmm.
man, can we just get a positive week? Why do things always got to go wrong, man? But yeah.
Yeah, eh, I'm excited for quite a few of these stories though. It's definitely not as dour of a week as it can be at certain points. But yeah, we're pumped to have y'all along to discuss the video game goodness. Um, And yeah, I'm assuming this will go up on a Sunday. So we're recording it on Sunday, so I think it'll probably go up this afternoon in the U.S. times. It's already afternoon in Loon Land, but
Yeah, cool
it's
possible. But yeah, it should
yeah.
get up. Obviously, it doesn't upload. Doesn't take long to upload. It'll just be you having to rush and do the timestamps.
Yeah, it's no worry. I'll make sure to knock that out. But yeah, recording this fairly early Sunday morning, so yeah, we should be able to get this up sometime this afternoon. That way y'all don't have to wait too long for the old ramble report. I gotta we got a comment. Someone's like, "Hey, when the fuck you putting out the next episode of this shit?" It's like we're getting to it. We're probably so that's the thing. Is like
Tell us the
we
news.
yeah. It's you know I that's why I don't like schedules for if it's full time. Like if we were able to do it full time, then yeah, sure, fuck yeah, we'll have a schedule for everything we do. But if it's not full time, like if there's not you know, eh, if if you're not doing something for a living, you kind of can't make it a priority, like a top priority. All real life shit is gonna have to come before any
Yeah, and I'll put my hands
content
up. I
related.
am the cause of that this week. But it's like you said, it is. What it is. It didn't take long. Obviously, it would have been the Friday that we were originally going to do it, and it's the Sunday, so just a couple of days in.
Yeah,
Not
I
the end
mean,
of the world.
yeah, I've had to do it many a times. It's just if it's something work related, something personal related, whatever the case may be, it's like you can't you can't just unfortunately can't prioritize a non-job over a real job, you know. So yeah, but yeah, we're gonna try to keep this going every week,
Yeah.
if we can, um, because there is a lot to talk about every single fucking week in the world of video game news. It's kind of crazy, not to continue fucking rambling about nothing, but it is kind of crazy. I don't think other industries have this. Like,
No.
th this is such an exciting space to cover and talk about. Like, I think that's the one reason where, sometimes we talk about, should we kind of wind this thing down or this, that, and the other? And it's like, man, this is just such a fun space to talk about. I don't know
Mm.
if I'll ever quit.
No, it's the thing. Like, for instance, you look in like the movie space and stuff, and something that's like fairly relevant is like that Superman movie. I think is like doing the rounds at the moment in people's thing, but that will exist for like a few months, maybe like maybe even just a month, and then it just fizzles out. Whereas with gaming and stuff, it's like every single day. It's you could have like five huge stories battling for each other, punching each other on Twitter, trying to dominate, and vie for your attention and stuff. It's just never ending. And you're talking like, especially we just had a showcase season esque thing where it's pumped out tons and tons of information and stuff, and then we're left with the aftermath of just even more stuff. It just never seems to end, which is
Yeah, I
great. I
mean,
mean,
you
that's not me like portraying that negatively. It's always like, I love waking up and just because I use, obviously, like I've said time and time again, true achievements, clicking on it and then being like, ooh, I wonder what's happened since I've been asleep. And they're like, "Oh, that's the new Game Pass games for next month," and "Oh, that's a new announcement," and "Oh, more layoffs." Yay!
yeah, you look at something like Kind of Funny, and I apologize there. I had to switch over to my internet was connected to the wrong thing. It wasn't connected to the damn Starlink. I got to check that beforehand. So I apologize if there was a little bit of audio issues up front. Hopefully it should be good now. I don't- never fucking
No, you just paused for a second. That's what I was trying to like write it out. I was like, "Please come back."
Jesus. Um, but yeah, it's like Kind of Funny. They do a daily fucking news show
Mm,
about games, and it's always an hour plus. Like that's crazy, man. That's the fact that that much daily information is breaking in the game space that you can cover an hour every day. And that's a dude, I could easily do an hour every single day about just game news that's in like interesting, important to me. Then that's not even accounting for the PC side of things. That's not accounting for the like the all the different sectors of gaming that don't appeal to me.
yep.
That's fucking insane, man. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about this week. I tried my best to minimize tried to cut out the stuff that wasn't real big. That way we're not here for 4 or 5 hours because anytime Summer Game Fest, E3, whatever is peeking around the corner, you're going to get a lot of previews and a lot of events like that. So there were a lot of games that got previewed, and I'm like, shit, do we just cover a bunch of other people's previews? It's like that's not really that interesting. So I cut a lot of those, but we do have one in there that is just kind of, you know, uh,
A
a,
you
a
pick.
bigger, yeah, and just a big game. You know what I mean? There's really not.
How
I would
convenient.
assume, yeah. Um, but it's also probably it's the game that got previewed that we had the least information about previously. You know what I mean? That was kind of what I was thinking of, like where Pragmata got previewed as well, and but like pretty much everything that was previewed with Pragmata, you kind of see in the gameplay trailer. So it's like
Mm,
I don't know there, but with the RE9, a lot of the preview coverage was actually it's like, oh damn, I didn't know this. I didn't know that, you're gonna have this hulking fucking Mr. X style character that's, like, I had no idea. So some of that preview information was actually um provided us some new details about
mm,
the game that we couldn't see from that trailer that showed us pretty much nothing about the actual gameplay experience. Um but yeah, man, how about we go ahead and hop into the news of the week, and we'll kick it off with The Witcher 4. And so Unreal did another one of their tech demo things, but this time they were showing off an example of what The Witcher 4 could maybe look like, hopefully, possibly.
mm.
It's it's such a fucking weird scenario. Um so I'm assuming what this means is like a lot of the characters and environments might have been placeholder, and obviously we're not seeing actual gameplay of The Witcher 4 running, but
Mhm.
more so like a rough draft kind of concept build that was made by Epic and then CDPR maybe they just allowed them to run that to showcase UE5. Like I this is just such a unnecessary I this is such unnecessary drama, unnecessary like bad PR
Do
because
you
I
mean
I
how
don't
people are
really
reacting to it, or what their choices were? for showing it.
Both kind of.
Yeah,
A little bit of both, where
yeah,
it's like, why sign off on that if you're CDPR? Because that's going to look it's going to reflect negatively upon you because you have deceived people in the past.
yeah.
And and then it's like, I understand Epic really, I don't know why they have to do this every year. The state of Unreal. And it's like, dude, it's the same meta-human presentation that you had last year with the immediate facial animations for, like all of that shit. We saw that last year. UE5 still looks cool, but we're seeing like, I guess a whole side tangent here. You look at Mind's Eye running on
Hmm.
UE5. And it's like y'all still haven't really shown a good example of what UE5 does with an open world where it's not totally fucking borked. Like Stalker was totally fucking borked at launch.
Yep,
And these Unreal Engine 5 open world games seem to really suffer performance wise.
yep.
And so I don't know. Like you have to prove it. These tech demos aren't proving it. They're cool year in, year out. It's nice to see these facial animations, but like in-game open worlds, like it seems your engine causes a lot of fucking problems or it's hard to optimize for. Um, I don't know. These tech presentations, I look at this a lot more negatively on Epic and the state of Unreal opposed to CDPR.
Yeah, I'm probably split 50-50 because I think I gave my insight. I can't remember in what recording we did, but I didn't like um them doing that. I didn't like them showing what they showed because I get, okay, you want it, that's going to be the visual tone and stuff. That's probably going to be kept over, but you're not seeing the engine struggling because these things aren't doing anything, if that makes sense. These NPCs and stuff are just hollow. It's not actual game where they're having to function and stuff. So it's not gonna, of course, put as much strain on the engine and stuff like that. This is why when you saw it in action with Stalker 2 and stuff, it struggled like hell because they can't get everything. They're trying to make it look as pretty as possible and have everything, spinning, the wheels spinning and stuff, and it just doesn't seem to work. This engine still hasn't been ironed out. Um, so it does feel in a way a bit disingenuous to me. But I get why they have to do it. You've partnered with them as well because they obviously used their own in-home engine for the Witcher 3 with Red Engine. I think that was the same with Cyberpunk, right?
Hmm.
So they obviously made a massive announcement that they were moving over to Unreal and stuff like that. So it, I'm sure it's Epic, putting a little bit of pressure on them, like try and build up some buzz for us if we because they do their yearly, like you said, the State of Unreal thing. So what's more big than The Witcher that's going to be using the engine, right? So
Yeah.
it's you're trying to benefit off of both of them, and I get it, but I don't know. For me, it's always why I don't, because I never tuned into it. Like I heard that they were doing it and stuff. I didn't sit there and watch it because when I heard that it's not gameplay and stuff, I'm not interested in what could be's and what ifs and stuff like that because modern gaming has shown time and time again what ifs never deliver. You have like you said, the perfect example of Mind's Eye using Unreal Engine 5. Is that really a good showcase? Like that's going to be a comparison, even though the this game's years out, is still drawing that comparison that they're both on the same engine. And of course,
Yeah.
you're going to expect CDPR to pull a lot bigger on this engine than the Mind's Eye devs. You would
Of
hope,
course.
but
Yeah.
that's just it's the thing. You have that spinning around in your head. Even with Claire, I think that was Unreal, right? 5.
I don't know. Well, I think yeah, it
I
might have been
think it
actually.
was, and that's why like it also chugged. I don't think I don't think we prodded that as much as we probably should in the reviews. Well, there was plenty of stuttering and stuff when you're out in the world and stuff. Like it wasn't broken, but it's something where it's like you can feel it. It's compacted and it's all tied together, but it feels like it's going to burst at any minute sometimes with these Unreal Engine 5 games.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it was UE5.
yeah,
Um, and it's so Avowed, would that be like the best example of
Probably not
a
for me.
game? Right.
I don't
But
think that was
I'm,
anything to do with the engine. But yeah, that was. I think that was also Unreal, right?
yeah, that was
Um,
5.
they did a pretty decent job with it. But the thing is again, what we need to look at through the lens as well is it was The Witcher 4 is going to be a lot more moving parts than Avowed.
Yeah.
So was that their purposeful choice when they were beginning development with Unreal, where they were like, okay, we probably should just scale back the MP because they don't have jobs and lives and stuff really going on in Avowed like you would expect in a game of that ilk. They're just backdrops. They just exist. They hand quests out to you, and then they're just standing there doing nothing. So yeah, I don't know. It's a worry. I don't know how much that is previous gen maybe taking influence, or trying to get it. What is it? Series S problem? Like what is like? There has to be something because it just doesn't add up. Like we've seen games use Unreal before. Like Unreal Engine 4 was very, very, very good for what it was. They've obviously had to move on, but it's just I don't know. Optimization issues are just they began mid-ish gen on the Xbox One and PS4. You had like Arkham Knight and stuff being really poorly running on like PC and stuff. And it's just seems to be persistent. It's like optimization seems to have taken a huge back burner in priority because the whole fix in post mentality. It feels like Atomic Heart and stuff like that. It's just like I don't understand why people so readily accept it.
And there's a lot of games that run great, you know, UE5 games that run great, but open world specifically is the thing I'm trying to think of here, where it's like I really do think Avowed would be the only example, and even Avowed is not open. It's
No,
open-ish. It's
yeah,
open
it's
adjacent.
open
Expedition
zoned.
33 is
Yep.
yeah, Expedition 33 is like open adjacent.
Mm.
It's not like these games aren't full-blown open worlds. And like when I think about the stuttering and issues that you find in like a Stalker 2 at launch, it's like, holy shit, man, that game is so much less complex than what The Witcher 4 is going to do. You know what I mean? So it's just not, I, that it's just like that's a and listen, it's not gonna be a Mind's Eye. Mind's Eye is a fucking disaster on a fundamental like base level of like the game is just you know people I've seen people say, well, Cyberpunk recovered. It's not gonna have that same fate. Cyberpunk had a fucking great like soul and it had things in it that were recoverable. There's nothing recoverable about Mind's Eye. It's
It's
just dull.
exactly
It's
what I
boring.
it's what exactly what I put in the Discord. I haven't even played it. I ended up just watching people play it because it's that type of like you could know you knew something was going to be wrong with it. Something didn't add up. No, hardly any marketing and stuff like that. And then I think I got home late that night on its day of launch and seeing, sat down, booted up the news things and seeing that they'd also pulled sponsor streams, and it was like, oh, what's going on here? Then why are you doing that? That's really heavily red flags. You end up watching the gameplay, and it's like, oh man, this is not it. My only assumption as to why they kicked it out is because they just don't want it anywhere near GTA. I think they were just hoping to bank. People were so hyped on the GTA trailer, try and release it as close to that trailer as possible, try and piggyback off of it. Because they'd have no chance if they were to. They delayed it next year. Maybe they ironed out some of the performance issues and stuff, but it's still going to be that hollow shell. Like the game, down to like its fundamental design, just was drab. Because it wasn't even an open world, was it? In the end, it was mission based, and then you finish the game, and
Yeah.
then you can go back into the world. But there's nothing. It kind of reminded me almost of like Agents of Mayhem kind of thing, of where like it's technically an open world, but you're not going to go around exploring inside of it. There's nothing to offer.
Well, and it's like the 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 thing is, dude, just talking about UE5 is like I've seen the bugs and stuff that people are reporting on, characters' faces doing crazy shit but like the only issues I've had with that game performance or technical wise is the performance, is the frame rate. Like I haven't had any bugs or game breaking issues or glitch. Like it's just fucking performance. And so I'm looking at that and I'm like, dude, I'm not saying, listen, that's a build a Rocket Boy problem first and foremost. But whenever there's so many examples of UE5 having horrible, horrible fucking performance with these bigger games, it's like you can't look at every single example and go, well, it has to be totally on the devs. The devs are, in my opinion, totally responsible for the game being boring as fuck. The game's just boring as a motherfucker. There's nothing UE5 related about that. But it's like, why are these games and so I guess that's my whole thing to go back around to this is
Yep.
like CDPR. I get it. Give them all the smoke in the world. Like fuck them. Who cares? Like they have lied consistently to their fan base over I mean decades. You know what I mean? And sure they end up getting it right eventually and the game ends up getting good eventually. But like you know, I don't like the word scam because it's like because I've seen that thrown around a lot with Mind's Eye as well, where it's like it was a scam. It's like it's a bad game. There's a lot
Nah,
of bad games
yeah.
that I buy that aren't scams. But listen, but that's really not the point. If you want to call it a scam, go fuck. I don't care about them. You know what I mean? Like I don't. That's on them for releasing a product that could even be possibly called a scam. And it's the same way I feel about Cyberpunk, where it's like if you can deceive people to the degree that they feel it's a scam, that's on fucking you. That's not on them for calling it a scam. And then if enough people agree that it's a scam to the point that they're getting refunded, like that is on fucking you. It's
Mm,
it's not on the you can't spin this to be like, well, technically by definition terms. It's like, no, fucking go no.
yeah.
Fix that shit.
Yeah. Um. Obviously, The Witcher 4 is a few years out.
Oh yeah.
Fingers crossed they figure this shit out with Unreal. Fingers
Mm.
crossed it's just teething issues. But then I don't know. It feels like I've been saying that a while with them using it and stuff because like Lords of the Fallen used
Another
it
one.
and it was because you never played it, right?
No, but I saw
It
your
was
stuff.
fucking really bad at launch. Like, and it was the type of thing of like the Mind's Eye thing as well, where it was a poorly executed product on top of that 1.0 version, as well as it running like shit. So that's just a double whammy. They ended up finally fixing the stuff, but the performance issues are still there. Like we played it in its 2.0 launch state, an incredible game, really fun. But when you're getting into co-op areas and the game stands still for 15 seconds in a Souls-like, that's unacceptable, man. That's not something's seriously, seriously wrong with what it's doing, and that's not an open world either. That's
Nor
a
was Dead
Souls-like,
Space.
and this is like so. Yeah, it's a huge, huge, huge problem that they need to iron out. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know what it is. One of the two things. It's either the engine is truly at fault, and it falls on Epic to do something about that engine, or they're hiring people that have no idea how to work with that engine. That is the only two things as to what I like. That is it. It's either underqualified people because you keep firing people, you keep culling dev teams and trimming them and minimizing them, so then you're probably kicking out people who earn a lot of money so that you can replace them with lower income staff members, and they just don't. Then they're not familiar with it. They have no training because that's something we've seen repeated in the business space of there's hardly any mentoring going on now as well. So that's my two threads of logic as to look at it as to how I'm like looking at that information.
I did like what I heard whenever they were doing an interview. CDPR was doing an interview, and I believe it was like the creative director or whatever was saying that you know, we understand the fans were very disappointed with Cyberpunk. We can't have another situation like, and I'm paraphrasing.
Yep.
And it was like, we're building this for PlayStation 5 and then we will scale back opposed to building it for PC and or yeah, we'll scale up opposed to having to scale back. Where with building it for the highest fucking top tier PC specs, and then having to get that running on a base PlayStation 4 for a Cyberpunk scenario, it's like base PS4 compared to top line PCs in 2019 were more powerful than PS5s are now.
Hmm.
And so it's like building it for a PlayStation 5 right now is that's like your top priority, and then going, okay, we can easily scale up opposed to the difficult task of scaling back. So I did like hearing them talk about that. And then they also talked a little bit about like the challenges of developing for the Series S and getting that to hit 60 frames, which I don't know if that's necessarily should even be a priority. You know what I mean? Like
No.
there's a ton of games that don't run at 60 on Series S. Just lock it at 30.
Yeah, I don't know why. Why is that a big deal? Have it scaled back as well. Just have it drop a bunch of requirements. I thought that was kind of understood. Is when you buy a Series S that it's gonna. I don't know. That's just maybe me looking. I don't. Yeah, it is. It's just factually inferior. That's the whole point of
Mm,
its existence. It was meant to be a cheap entry point into next gen.
totally. Yeah. So
So
I don't I and that's it. Not to keep on with this, but it's like talking about PS5 even seems a bit I, like I don't know. Is this gonna be a PS5 game or is this gonna be a PS6 game? I mean, obviously it'll be cross-gen, so sure, fine. But like, I
um,
feel like this is like a 2029 game, which PS6 will be
I
out by then.
I mean, you're looking at the change in the industry though. They support previous gens so much longer than they ever used to. They happily ditched them. The only things that would be pumped out on previous gens a few years after its release was sports games. All other third party and they just moved forward. You're still seeing games release on PS4 in in this year and stuff like that. Like that's baffling.
The new Call of Duty is gonna be on
Yeah,
PS4.
exactly, and that because they know that there's still a huge install base over there. That's the thing. Um, I
I
don't know
think
if you saw.
Madden.
It's only just crossed over, I believe. There are now more PS5 owners than
Hmm.
PS4.
Yeah,
Um,
3 years left in the generation.
yeah, exactly, and that's the thing of like if you're Sony, that's a huge number then, right? So in their mind, that's money still on the table. So they're going to be looking at it when they release a PS6, as they're going to be there's obviously going to be PS6 exclusives. Are they going to also cater to PS4 players still? Like that would be
Right,
wild. That's three
right.
generations then that you're balancing. Like that would be crazy to me. But that was something that I was thinking about when I saw that. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. No, that it's fucking scary, man. It's and I guess we'll stay right there talking about PlayStation. This was something I kind of was split on this. The whole Black Myth Wukong situation. Was it exclusive lockdown money hatted by Sony? Was it not? And there was this big debate. Not that I really give a fuck one way or the other. But I do think it's interesting because we've never seen anything like this. So, just to catch people up, Black Myth Wukong is coming to Xbox exactly 1 year after its PS5 and PC release. And that is 1 year to the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Paul Tassi from Forbes reporting on it and being like, yeah, I have fucking valid sources, people who I absolutely do not think would steer me down a wrong path. And it was like, I think that there's some money hiding going on behind the scenes. Once again, paraphrasing. But,
Hmm.
um, and I was like, I don't think Paul Tassi is gonna fucking inaccurately. I don't think he's gonna try to throw his credibility out the window by
To
following
score
some.
like the very bare minimum amount of brownie points with some Xbox fans.
Yeah. And so it's like, so I looked into this more and more, and there is something about that date, August 20th, where they release a lot of shit on August 20th. Like the game initially launched on August 20th, a bunch of trailers launched on August 20th. Um, and so like there's stuff regarding that where that's supposedly like a sacred date to them. And so I don't know, dude. I kind of just lean towards if it smells like it, if it looks like it, if it walks like it, then it's probably. But then that's the weird thing where we've never seen an exclusive thing. Like PlayStation didn't market this at all, and that's never happened before. And so this is just a really like I find this genuinely interesting because I don't know. Like I tend to lean towards the report that it was some sort of money-hatted exclusive thing, but I genuinely don't fucking know.
I think the thing that makes me think that it was probably some some deal was the fact that when Spencer was asked about it, he was like, "I can't comment on it." Instead of just turning around and being like, "Yeah, it's not coming," because he wouldn't know, would he? It would like he would know. I mean, is that if that's 100% an exclusive, that's just not coming. It's not coming to Xbox. Like it would be like if somebody asked him, "Oh, are we ever getting God of War?" No, obviously not. Can we just move on to something else? And he was just like, I can't comment on it. I won't talk about platform partners and stuff like that and what they're doing. So yeah, it probably was a deal, but yeah, it's just like you said, it's just strangely handled because you have like obviously we knew that like Final Fantasy VII remake and stuff like that, they're all deals. That's all public knowledge that they were signed as exclusive things. And then the thing that was weird about that though is that it was just meant to be a year with Final Fantasy, and then nothing else was reported on it because it was printed on the box that it's a PlayStation exclusive for I think it was like May or something, and then that just went away, and then it was never talked about again until obviously it got released. The details are coming this winter, right, for the first remake to Xbox.
Yeah.
So
But
I
it
don't
came to
know.
PC, right? After that year.
I can't remember if it was. I'd have to look at like the dates and stuff like that. But it obviously came to PC before Xbox. I don't know if it was the year exclusivity or if it was a little bit longer. But it's just yeah, it's just a strange time to be in with these deals and stuff like that because you even look at you know PlayStation does it, Xbox does it. The Space Marine thing to me is
Yeah.
so incredibly head scratching of just like you're driving this narrative of you know to be a third party. That's what it feels like is that you're driving and that everybody should have access, and then you turn around and why get that as a Game Pass exclusive thing now? That doesn't make much sense to me at all. There's a big head scratcher. So I don't know. It's you can think in circles with trying to work out what goes on in their heads with these deals and stuff like that, and nothing will ever make sense. But positive is it's obviously coming to Xbox finally. Be interesting to see if it runs well on the Series S because that was obviously for a period of time that was being touted as it can't run on that. I mean, if Baldur's Gate 3 they can squish that down onto it, I think Black Myth can probably work it out at some point.
I think that's the thing. Well, so just kind of talking this out, I think that might be what happened where PlayStation, okay, so I assume Game Science was actually having trouble getting it to run on the Series S. And I could see someone at Sony looking at that as like a moment of like blood in the water
Hmm?
and being like, okay, well, if you're already having trouble getting it to run on the Series S, how about you don't have it running on there at all for a year? And and we it's about to come out as is. It's only got whatever 6 months until it releases on PlayStation. It's already going to release on PlayStation. We're going to pay you, this amount of money not to put it on Xbox. But and once again, I'm just speculating here, but I would assume that would be a lot because it's you're I would assume once again that you're going to get that for a bargain because you already smell the blood in the water. You see that they're having trouble getting it to run on that console, and it's not like it came out on PC, it came out on PlayStation. So like it just paying that little bit to get it as a console exclusive as opposed to doing the full marketing, the like a real like how they did with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I would assume that was a whole lot more expensive than
Yeah.
whatever deal they struck with Wukong, especially if there was actually issues with it running on the Series S, and they just kind of swooped in last minute and was like, "Hey, we'll lock you down for a year," because they have done that before. They did it with Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade was supposed to come to Xbox, and they came in and was like, "No, we'll lock it down as a console exclusive." And like it's business. You got to play. You
Yeah, no, of
got to
course.
do business.
Yeah.
But it is just I don't I've never seen a situation like this before. Because if you do get something as an exclusive, if you pay for it, you're going to market the shit out of that. But is the marketing just to say, "Hey, this other thing sucks"?
Yeah, they
Like
got the free. It's not obviously a one to one, but it's a kind of similar thing of the what was it 2012 or 2013 E3 round about that time when they were showing the PS4 and Xbox One. And
the share
Xbox
game
One came
things.
out and they just shit the bed on stage. And Sony probably had a bunch of shit that they had rehearsed and stuff, and they just threw that out the window. And we're just going to spend this entire week shitting on Xbox because they have just we don't even need to talk about our system. We can just sit there clowning them and just win that way.
Hmm.
And they did. They didn't have to do. They did that obviously infamous marketing thing of like, if you want to share a game on PlayStation, and there's the guy standing and he just hands him the game, and it's just like that. It's just yeah, they really don't help themselves. And
Yeah.
the Series S is another thing where it's just like, yeah, probably it was probably a good idea in theory, and then now that it's out in the wild, you can clearly see you probably shouldn't do that for console gaming. Have something hindered like that, because then in a competitive space like this, your competitor can turn around and go, "Well, just put it on our platform. We'll kick you a little bit of money potentially." And there you go. Boom. You no longer get the game, and look how successful it is. Because they missed out on Baldur's Gate 3 at launch. They missed out on Black Myth. Like, that's on them, man. That is on them.
Yeah. And I think it would have made a lot of sense for the Series S to be a handheld. And like no real like you don't have to if it's unplayable on it, it's unplayable on it. Like no big deal. A lot of shit doesn't run on Steam Deck. You know what I mean? And it's like that's totally fine. That's an understood thing. They have like deck verified and this, that, and the other. But um
I
yeah.
just think it
I
shouldn't have existed in general. I think they tried to play 4D chess when they just really should have just kept it simple. Because they were like, oh,
yeah.
people are struggling to buy things, so we'll put a console on the market where it's really cheap. It didn't help them at all.
Well, speaking of things that are not helping them at all, the Outer the Outer Worlds 2 is Xbox's first $80 game. And
Oh boy.
listen, I fucking love Obsidian. I love their games. I cannot wait to play The Outer Worlds 2. It's probably my most anticipated game for the rest of the year. I will not be buying it. Like, there's no chance I'm spending $80 on The Outer Worlds 2. The Outer Worlds 1 was a good $50 to $60 game. You know what I mean? Like, if you pay 50, $60 for it, you feel pretty good about that purchase. There's no world where I can see anything from The Outer Worlds to justifying $80 for me personally. And it's not even necessarily about because we're all going to have different opinions on that. But and you know the argument is food prices going up and price of housing is going up, vehicle pricing is going up, this going up, that so of course games are going to go up as well, right? And it's like, you know what all of those things have in common? Food, vehicle, housing. They're essential. Like you have to have that shit to survive. And if people can barely afford the price of eggs, the price of rent, the price of gas, it's like, what is the first thing that's going to be cut? Is your game. You know what I mean? And we've had this conversation 100 fucking times. Um, but I don't think it's a thing of games aren't worth $80. I don't, I think that's a part of it for
Mm,
sure.
I
I don't
think they're
think
not
something like,
worth it in this climate, is what I would use with how
so
much it's, costing people to live. It's not worth it in this climate.
here's my thing is like I don't think the Outer Worlds 2 I doubt is going to be worth $80. There are certain games and everybody is going to have their own opinion on what is or what is not worth whatever, but I think it's even beyond all of that. I think it's actually bad business to charge $80 for most games. Like I don't think that you're going to see some sort of similar sales success for the Outer Worlds, 2 that you saw for 1. And I think it's all going, or at least, day one full price. And I think it's all coming down to people just can't cut that right now. Like it's too expensive just to afford the shit that everybody has to have, that the has to have, those essential goods. So people are going to cut the non-essential goods. And it's a fucking easy cut for the Outer Worlds too. I'm not trying to be rude. Once again, I cannot wait to play that game. I'm so excited. But like that's a pretty fucking easy cut. Even for someone like me, I'm like, I'll pass. I'll Game Pass,
Mm.
if you will. I'll just hop into that on Game Pass.
Yeah, and that's what I think we talked about it in the stream when they announced it. They're the only person in the business where it's not going to affect, like PlayStation. It would heavily affect them because they're not putting their stuff into that um, subscription service, so they can kind of use that as a lure to hopefully drag more people in. I don't think it's going to work because I don't think the Outer Worlds 2 has that much pulling power. Um, but if they keep everything across the board and then just move everything to 80, it does get more and more appealing for people to slowly transition into that if that's what they want to be doing. But I I've been giving it a good think for the past few months. I don't know if you're going through this as well. I haven't purchased. This is the least amount of games I've purchased this year since I probably got like financial independence. Like they're expensive as shit. There's so many of them, so the release schedule is bam, 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 bam. I think this is going to be kind of like not conspiracy, like tinfoil hat kind of thing. If we are going to see another game crash, it's not going to be because games are bad. It's because you're
Too
charging
much.
too much for them, and there's too many of them.
Yeah,
You are just
that's such a good
cannibalizing.
point.
You are just cannibalizing. Like there is not an I can't. I was like, oh yeah, the precinct looks good. Oh, deliver at all cost looks good. Oh, Oblivion. I could have like, and this is the thing. Like, there's so bam, 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 constant, and it's just like, and it's why I remember seeing a comment when I was doing my Game of the Year roundup, and people being like, "Oh, Black Myth didn't make it" or whatever, and it's just like, no, because it didn't come to Xbox. But even if it did, I don't think I'd have enough time to play half of these games, and that's why in previous years, like in the Xbox One generation, there was that envy of like, I really wish I could have Uncharted, like all these kind of games on there. There's too much, and that's a good thing, of course, choice. But if we're gonna see like the industry suffer, it's because you're charging 80 for too much. So you're
Yeah.
gonna see all these people turning around and saying, "Oh, these aren't hitting these sales figures and stuff," and people like to clown that. There's only so many gamers.
That's such a good point, dude. Because like, yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm still probably playing more games than I ever had in my life, but I I am not finishing anything. And it's kind of a shitty feeling where like I jump into the altars and I play it for 3, 4 hours, whatever, and I'm just like, this is cool. But I would rather play this other game that just dropped the day before it. Like it kind of was nice to have that period of time where there would be 3 weeks before you got another big game and you're finished by week 2 with the game you're playing and you got a week to chill and kind of process it and take it all in before the next thing comes out that you're excited to jump into or before you jump back into the backlog or whatever. I think there is something about like this is such an all-consuming hobby because that's a you go and watch you could watch a movie every single day, and you're killing 2 hours. If you play 2 hours of a game a day, like you, you're 4 weeks before you finish that motherfucker.
Yeah.
You
And
know
in
what I
them
mean?
four
It's
weeks,
400 games come out.
15 other games that are very various different genres that would pique your interest have all dropped, and you're like, oh well, because that's what I'm in right now. I'm in backlog territory. I'm playing Hogwarts Legacy because I never finished it, and I'm looking at Final Fantasy 16. I've been wanting to play that. I can't. There's not enough time.
There's
I'm
no time.
10, 12 hours into Hogwarts. Like, where am I going to insert in Final Fantasy 16? Because that's not a short game, right? It's like
Mm-mm.
20
God,
plus
no.
hours, I'd assume.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean. It's just, yeah, it's crazy. I think that's going to be the thing that we see. If there is going to be, because people keep fucking using that phrasing of video game crash and stuff like that. If there is going to be any reality scenario where that happens, it's going to be because of that.
That is a really damn good point. Just too much at too high of a price point. And I think that's kind of what you're going to see, and you're kind of seeing it already, where the $70 games are kind of tanking, and then Expedition and Blueprints
Yep.
and Oblivion and these 40 and $50 games are Balatro, what do you, like $10, whatever the
Yeah.
fuck. These games are flourishing because it's such a competitive market and they've carved out just a little pocket, but that little pocket creates so much buzz, so much word of mouth that it becomes a larger pocket. And it's like, oh, $50? Cool. I remember this back in I would go to GameStop and then, 2003, and I would buy a copy of Second Sight. And it's like, sure. Second Sight sitting there for $30, you pick it. It's just those kind of impulse purchases, especially now on digital storefronts, are so appealing when you don't see that $70, $80 price tag sitting there. Um, yeah. I I am really curious how this is going to do because I think, of course, Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is going to be $80. And that's if you have Grand Theft Auto, if you have Mario, if you have Call of Duty, if that's the fucking thing that's $80, it's like people are going to pay that $80. Of course they are. It's the biggest juggernaut in games.
Mm-hmm.
So but the Outer Worlds too, like I'm curious if that's gonna do any kind of numbers whatsoever.
No, I wouldn't be able to. I didn't. I don't know the first game's like opening week sales figures, but I don't even think it like blew the socks off of people when it the first game's release. Like it was kind
I
of
think
like that's a decent showing from Obsidian, but yeah, you think that because there's people who tried that out and they didn't like it as well on top of that, so they're not going to rebuy the game with the sequel, so they're already tapped out, and then you're tapping out fans that aren't going to be willing to put 80 down. And then correct me if I'm wrong. Is this another code in the box or kind of situation?
yeah, yeah, I guess that's a whole different thing that we should probably talk about. So you're buying you're buying an $80 game on Xbox. So if you buy it on Xbox, you are not even getting a disc in that box that you can resell. If you buy it on PlayStation, you're getting a disc in the box and you can resell it and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But on the Xbox, if you buy that thing for $80 on your preferred platform, you are not getting anything that you can resell.
No, it's the avowed thing, and I think we all know why now. I don't know if you've pieced it together. They are just hammering home that play anyway. That's why they're just doing the code in the box, because what they're doing is they're just gonna, obviously that handheld thing's coming out, right?
Hmm.
The ROG Ally, that's going to be utilizing Play Anywhere. So when that comes out, that's going to make that look a little bit more appealing for people when they're thinking about it, because it's like you can buy that thing as a code and then you can use it everywhere. And then that's kind of what they're trying to get people to embrace, is that digital purchases, you take it everywhere across all devices and stuff like that, instead of having it tied onto one device. They're just trying to make it appealing as possible. I don't feel comfortable with that,
But
obviously.
if you bought it and it had a disc in it, it's still, I mean, all of their discs are just fucking download codes. And so theoretically that could still carry over, but you would at least have the ability to resell the fucking disc when you're done with it.
No, but you wouldn't be able to play that on the ROG, would you?
Oh, well, you can't play any of your console games, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, any disc stuff is not going to go working. That's what I'm saying. They're trying to get you to embrace that, to get the code, because then you can play that on the ROG now and still in the Series X, because they just want to just push that Play Anywhere feature. Which I don't know. It there's definitely, like, when I was looking through the Xbox app on PC, it's like, yeah, that's nice. When I'm flicking through the library and being like, oh, that does that. There's digital games I've purchased where it's like, yeah, that does probably make sense to play it on like a laptop and a PC. So that's nice that you've pulled that over. But I would prefer just to have a disc in the box, man, because I'm making that express decision, because there's a bunch of things behind me that if I was to buy them digitally, they would be playing around. I could play them on the thing, but I'm choosing to buy them in the disc form because that's what you want to support. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's they're trying a new avenue. We'll see if it blows up in their face.
I don't I just don't really understand. I guess that's the spot I'm in right now. Is it just the Xbox branding that they think is going to make this successful? Because it just isn't. Like it's well, I'm not saying it isn't going to be successful. I'm saying it isn't successful yet. Like the whole handheld PC thing just isn't doing anything at all. And it's like, is it just the X on it that's going to make this thing more sought after
I
than
think
the Steam
it's
Decks and the ROG Ally?
it's embedding. My interpretation of it is because obviously the rumor is their next console thing is going to be that hybrid thing.
Hmm.
So you're going to use this handheld to instill the seed. You're planting the seed of, when you buy a game on Xbox on their store, you're able to play it on all these different devices, because that's their whole thing. So then when you get to the next thing, it's not going to have probably physical support functionality. And if it does, it's going to be an optional thing that you USB plug in or whatever, and it's going to be something like that. But it's that's what they're just trying to do. They're trying to shed that. They're just being very brutish, like they always are. Embrace digital as the future. They don't want you to embrace physical. They really,
But
really just want to push that digital thing.
I, I I get that, but my question is like, even in terms of pushing for this handheld thing, is like, what is the selling point? I don't really understand that at all. Like, I don't. That's the thing that because if it was, oh, if it's
Are
five
you
hundred
saying, like,
dollars, then it's
for an Xbox fan, what would drive me to go and get that ROG Ally?
anybody, because the the ROG Ally appeals to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The Steam Deck appeals to everybody theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
This should appeal to everyone theoretically as well. And it's like they aren't doing anything. Like this isn't going anywhere. And so it's like I'm I guess what I'm saying, because if this was $500, then it was like, oh shit, okay, I could see
You're
that
talking about the
fucking
ROG being
taking off.
500.
Yeah, the new
Yeah.
Xbox thing. If it was 500, I could see it taking off, being in stores everywhere and marketed as this new big Xbox thing. And maybe that's the thing. They just market it better than anyone else has marketed their handheld PC thing. But it's going to be $900. It's like, it's no one's going to buy it.
Yeah, no, it is very steep. But then, yeah, when you're looking at it through that angle, I think it's just also setting up the expectation as the. I think gone are the days 500 and below consoles moving forward. is what that is. They're beating that door down so that when their next phone comes out, that'll be close to that price. Is what I'm gonna predict. That hybrid thing and PlayStation will probably want to follow suit because I think they want to move away from losing money on the hardware sales as well. The more you can close the gap between that, the more money you make, and that's what they're driven by is just profit, profit, profit. You know, try and get in the green as much as you can. I've seen a decent amount of buzz and hype for that ally, especially on True Achievements and stuff. But it is the 50-50 split of there are people that are like, no way in hell am I buying that for that price, and then there's a ton of people that are like, yeah, I'll happily support that. There's not really a middle ground of like if you were to bring it down in price, it's either they're interesting in the handheld and they will buy it, or they have no interest whatsoever because it's too expensive.
I It's just interesting where you see the Switch 2 come out and it's the most successful console launch in video game history and it's priced at $400 and it comes with, one of the most sought after exclusive games to ever release. And it's like I just don't really understand. Like there's all of this moving and shaking and shifting that it, I just don't understand. Like the idea of selling a piece of hardware and trying to have mainstream appeal. And maybe that's the thing.
No, it's not
And I
trying to
guess
be mainstream appeal at all. It's a that ROG ally thing is, oh, I can't think of the word. I can't think of the word of describe, like an elite hobbyist kind of thing. It's not meant to be like an entry ground. It's not meant to appeal to the majority of people. In the same way that the Steam Deck is, you don't buy a Steam Deck as your primary thing. The majority of Steam Deck owners have a PC, but you're also utilizing the Steam Deck for other functionality. And I think
so
that's
the
what it's an accompaniment thing for those that want to do it. It's like the PlayStation Portal thing. Obviously, that
for
was cheaper.
$200.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. But that's what I'm saying. That was cheaper. But it's that kind of mentality of that's not going to replace your Xbox. You're going to be using that alongside it.
So you're going to pay $900 for a
Oh,
secondary
I'm not.
device. That's just that's I
um,
guess that's what I'm saying is
yeah,
like we're seeing that no one buys these things over and over and over and it's like here's the thing that like where my brain goes is it's like is it okay just for this thing to come out and sell to a million people?
yeah.
Is that looked at as a success? Because
I
if
mean,
that's the case, then sure, you'll probably have success with it.
it'll
You'll
get
probably sell it to a million.
yeah, it'll get clowned on by people who obviously have no interest in it, and it'll get dragged through the dirt because the Steam Deck had that happen. People were clowning on that. Oh, that was meant to be a lot more. So it's not meant to replace your primary device. It's just an accompaniment device. It's just fucking expensive, and that's the thing is that that's what tools and things like this for the highest, the elite hobbyist. I can't think of the word. I'm having to keep using that, so apologies. Um, that's their goal. You're never gonna. It's gonna sell. I don't think it'll even sell 1 million.
I don't
I think
either.
you'll see. You'll
I was
probably
being
shift.
nice.
You'll probably shift at most. There's no. I don't see it going above 600,000 copies. Units. I mean, um, for me, it's interesting. I would like one because it's the type of thing of where like, yeah, I'd probably get use out of it because it's you're talking about your giving it its own Windows Xbox architecture thing. So it's going to be very Xbox driven. All the games will be on there for the most part, and giving access to all the other storefronts. That's cool. That's really cool. It's not for like $900 though, $800 thing. And that's where it's gonna, yeah, why it's gonna hinder itself is I don't even know how many because the ROG Ally already exists out in the wild. I don't even know how many they sold their previous iterations, the normal ROG Ally and the ROG Ally X. I don't. I've never, whenever you see people post pictures of stuff, it's a Switch or a Steam Deck. I've never seen anybody in any, like, whenever it's circling around being like, oh, I've got on a flight and I'm playing this. It's never been one of them in their hands. So I don't even know how many they've shifted themselves. But it'll be
And
interesting who's footing the bill for it though. Is the big thing.
I
Is it
s-
a truly 50-50 split? Because that wouldn't make sense.
no, I assume it's 100%
It's
Asus with like
100% somebody, or very close to 100%. Like it's either ROG themselves or Xbox. And if it's Xbox, that makes even less sense
yeah.
of putting it because it's, yeah. So that, yeah, it'll be very interesting when that comes out and you see like the behind the scenes things, information come out of it, because it is just, it's a strange device, to put it simply.
Yeah. Something that really bums me out that I've heard a lot is people saying, "Well, I don't know why you're surprised about the digital code inbox. Xbox fans don't support physical media." And I'm like, that's just such a bummer of an argument because while it might be true statistically, it's been forced upon the fan base to not support physical media. They were the first to go the full DRM route. They were trying to do the no reselling of used games. They were trying to do all of that really, really horrible anti-consumer shit. And then so the fan base made the digital move thinking like, oh yeah, well, it's not supported here. It's the way we play games, the way we prefer to play games isn't supported here. And so if you want that, you go to Nintendo, you go to PlayStation. And if you are still sticking in the Xbox ecosystem, you primarily go digital for their audience. And it's like that was forced upon them. They didn't really make that decision. And then now once again, it's like forced upon them. They're not getting a decision in this. It's not a thing where like you said, cool. If it is a code that transfers over, you can import it into your handheld device, into your PC, whatever, and it's this
Oh, it
transferable
is
code
that.
thing.
That is
But
100%.
but what I'm saying
Yeah.
is like if it is that, then that's cool if that's an option. But you should also have an option for people who
Yep.
want the disc.
Yep.
And it's like all of this shit about preservation this, preservation that. It's like, man, y'all, it's so much fucking, sideways speak. It's a lot of saying things that you don't mean. Um,
Yeah.
and
It's
I mean, I know it's a
it's
company,
interpreted. No, but it's in it. This is what, because I think we've touched upon it before. Of he never said about physical preservation. As people were just assuming that's what he meant. It was always just the word preservation, and it's just what we've seen is what they're looking at. Preservation is digital preservation, bringing your digital purchases forward, and that's what they deem as preservation. So everything behind you and behind me, that doesn't matter. So that it is heartbreaking to hear that, because we've seen time and time again, whenever they've done something this aggressive, the others follow suit, and you're seeing Nintendo now following suit with their codes in the boxes, and that's worrying.
but they're not though. It's like that's the thing is so and I listen. I get it. It's this thing where you see something happening and then you want to like connect dots, but Mario Kart is 100% on
Oh,
the
but yeah,
thing,
they're
and Zelda
yeah, but
is
so
like
are some
all of
Xbox
these,
games as well. They're not
but
all,
not their first party stuff.
no, but
And so
yeah.
what I'm saying is like Nintendo's first party stuff is consistently on the fucking on the cart. And like you can go and buy the thing and put it into the device and it's going to function. And like I just so my whole thing here was the argument of Xbox players don't buy physical media. Why the fuck would they? It's not like y'all are given a great fucking option to do so. Whenever Indiana Jones has 10 gigabytes of data and Halo has 10 gigabytes of data and you got to download the other 80, it's like, no shit, people aren't buying that. And now you're totally removing the option entirely. So like these players don't get to resell these fucking these codes now, but they can't even resell a disc that doesn't have data on it now. It's like, I don't know, man. That's just super fucking shitty.
Yeah, no, I'm not defending it. It is shitty, and it is something they're pushing. So yeah, but it was the next step, wasn't it? The writing was kind of on the wall that this was what was going to happen. So I think that's because it's obviously my. I've been entrenched in that ecosystem. It's the type of thing of like you hope it doesn't happen, but it doesn't shock me, and it's not as it doesn't hit and hurt as hard because it's just they've just gone down this route. They've made it year on year harder to try and support their physical games, especially over here in the US as well. It's not as bad because you guys still get tons of physical prints, even if they are them 10 gigabyte thing. You're still getting them over in the UK. So many physical games don't even get listed on Amazon. You have to import them in. So it's even worse. And they're strangling it and strangling it and strangling it because they don't want physical preservation. Because I'm assuming in their mind they don't want. It's the same thing as why they wanted to snuff it out with the Xbox One straight away. They don't want you reselling it because that's not money in their pocket. As a business thing, they didn't want. They wanted. There was rumors back then of you put it in and then that's it. The disc is dead because it's tied to your console. Whether that was true or not, or a very early design stage inception idea. But of course, that's ridiculous if that was gonna ever, and it's the reason why it never took off. But they've kind of waltzed the way around it, and now we have this. It's basically the same thing. You're purchasing a product, you can't resell it.
It's fucking crazy. It's truly fucking crazy. Um, yeah. And I mean, anywho, yeah, it's just, it's such a bummer. Especially your first $80 game, and this is the first code inbox game. It's like, holy fucking shit.
No, it's not
That,
well, the first $80 one because Avowed was code in box as well.
oh, that's right. They had that is
Yep, you
true.
could
Yeah,
buy the
Jesus
steelbook of
Christ.
that in there.
Yeah.
I can't speak for indie. I think that was a disc, but it's impossible to find it. It wasn't stocked over here, so I couldn't pick it up and give that a look. I don't know if they've finally put it over here for sale. And this is the thing. This is when people turn around and say they don't buy physical. It's so difficult to fucking get it. It's not even the fact that they don't like it. They don't support it is one thing, and they don't even put it out there to be bought in so many places in the world. So of course the physical sales suffer.
Yeah, it bums me out a lot of the time. I think so much blame gets thrown onto the Xbox fan, where it's like, y'all don't buy games, so games don't come over here. Y'all don't support physical media, so physical media isn't supported here. And it's like, dude, well, they introduced a subscription service that allows for you to never buy a game again in your fucking life if you didn't want to.
Mm,
And then like they force physical media away from players. And it's like, how are you continually blaming the fan? There's business practices that are forcing the hands of the fans. And I don't know. There's just so much. It seems like people actively try to go out of their way to not blame the people that should be blamed and then
mm,
blame each other. And it's like, bro, we don't have the fucking, we're not the ones that are putting the damn codes in the box.
no,
We would like to buy the disc.
no, exactly. And it's the type of thing as well. Of like you, when these things were being introduced, you just hoped it was just another thing of like an option. This is just another option, kind of like Xbox Live Gold and stuff like that. That didn't then prevent physical media to exist. It was just like, oh, well, hopefully that just means another option. But you know, here we are. Can't wait for next gen.
Jesus Christ. Well, speaking of next gen, a game we will be seeing on the PlayStation 6 is Silent Hill 1. Um, so this was officially announced at Konami's like presser event thing, and no real information, just a little trailer that doesn't, just like, hey, Silent Hill 1 is a thing that exists. It's going to come out. Don't, no gameplay, no cinematic, just confirmation. And I'm pumped for this, no doubt. I do find it like, why did we do this in this order is kind of where my brain goes, where it's like, why didn't we just do one, two, and then into three and then cut it off there? Maybe do four, rework four to some degree. I guess you can maybe make some sort of lore connections where it's like three and one kind of connect a little bit, but I don't know. I really wish we would have just did Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, into 3,
Yep.
Silent Hill 1, 2, into 3. I think it would have just made more sense for the consumer, but Silent Hill 1 is fucking awesome. Um, my favorite Silent Hill game is three, then probably one, and then two. So I'm really pumped to
Two
see
that low,
Silent.
really?
Yeah, I mean, I just think
Damn.
two has some weird fucking design choices in terms of like actual the gameplay, especially the original. I mean, don't get me wrong, two the remake is fucking solid, but in terms of the originals, I love the story in two. The story in two is probably my favorite overall, but I really like the story in one a lot, man. The story in one I don't
Mm,
think gets enough credit. That game has a really, it's so much scarier to me than two. Two becomes fairly predictable in my opinion, whereas one is like so so fucking out there at times. And two is two. Don't get me wrong, but like the sort of gameplay scenarios that you're presented with in one, it's like, oh wow, I didn't expect
yeah.
to see that. So I'm excited to see how they remake that.
Yep. And this is Bloober
Yep, Luba,
carrying the
the goat.
torch. Um, I had my obviously reservations about them doing the two remake, and it's one of them things we've said it time and time again. We'll happily put our hands up and say that we were wrong. I had no
Oh
faith
yeah.
in them in doing it because up until that point, what reason would I have had to have faith in them? Their games felt they didn't appeal to me. The ones that they'd made in the past, I thought they were okay games, but they were never like standout titles for me, and they always struggled on the gameplay um, department. Two remake, from what I've saw, it was yeah, the massive step of improvement. I'm gonna still be mildly, tinily skeptical if they can pull off one because two is so beloved as well. Where I think it's gonna be a lot easier to probably screw up one because two is so well known, right? It's like the most popular one in the series that people like equate to. With one, it's I don't think there's as many fans that had that as like their first game. A lot of it was like coming in at two. So you're gonna have you know when you have somebody like remake something and they're very particular with something. I think that's what they're going to be met with one more so than they were with two. Which don't get me wrong, people still had that kind of like feeling and stuff with two. But I think there's going to be a lot more like don't screw this up. Or do you not think that? Because I feel like that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. Like it really is funny that Silent Hill has this level of fanaticism
Mm.
attached to it where it's like, dude, those games never sold well. They were, I mean, they sold okay, but like they were not some like back in the day. Listen, if you were there at the time, I think you could agree that people really weren't talking about Silent Hill the way they are now, which is great
Mm.
for the brand of Silent Hill. But like, it wasn't this gigantic phenomenon. It was cool. Silent Hill 1 came out, and, you know, it, not, I hate to go into this full fucking. So, when the remake of Silent Hill 2 came out, you would see certain pockets of people, the hardcore Silent Hill fanatics, being like, "Well, it plays too much like Resident Evil. They're copying Resident Evil." It's like, bro, they always were copying Resident Evil. Back in the original, Silent Hill 1 was just like Konami going, "Hey, how the fuck do we make Resident Evil, but not exactly Resident Evil?" And it's like, okay, well, let's go a little bit more psychological, but we're going to have every exact same mechanic that Resident Evil has, the exact same movement, the exact same camera, the exact like it's that's what iteration and game development, you get inspired by something, you take
Yeah.
your own spin, you take your own crack at it. That's totally fine. But it was like people saying with the remake that it's too Silent Hill 2 remake that it's too much like Resident Evil 2 remake. It's like it's always been like Resident Evil 2, guys. It's always been like that. Um,
What would have been
I
the
don't know.
expectation as well? What could they have possibly done other than I can't comprehend. Like you saw RE2 remake get the level of success it got, and it got that level of success for a reason. It's not only the fact that the source material was great; they modernized it perfectly. So for people like me that wanted to jump into RE2 and experience it, but I couldn't tolerate it in its original state, you did it perfectly, Capcom. You've allowed me to just go in and enjoy the game. Why wouldn't they do that with Silent Hill? You
Well, and you
know?
see that with the numbers. The sales, like
Yeah.
Silent Hill 2 is the fastest, Silent Hill 2 remake
Yep.
is the fastest selling Silent Hill thing ever. So it's like dude, I understand. Listen, I love tank-based games too, man. I fucking do. But they should remake Resident Evil 1 so Loon and people like Loon can fucking play it.
Mm.
Like, that is, if you were not born, before 1996 or whatever, you don't have any fucking patience for tank-based game. Like, you have to understand that, like, everything can't just be for you. you, Businesses can't run just appealing to you. And I don't know. I love that the indie space is taking their spin and taking their crack at the tank-based games, and there's a market for that on an independent game level.
Yeah.
But on a AAA level, there's not a market for that.
No, they can't. They can't justify it because it won't sell them, and it will bury them if they do that. It's not. You saw, and it kind of made me laugh as well. With Expedition 33, there was a ton of people coming out and being like, "So Final Fantasy has no excuse then as to not going turn-based." Because that was their big thing of like we're going down the route with 16 in the way it was because turn-based games they just don't sell as well as full-fledged action games, and that for the most part it is true. Nine times out of
Yes.
10 it is true. Every now and then of course you're going to get something like a Baldur's Gate 3 where it comes out and it does everything so well that people will tolerate the turn-based, because I love it, I love the combat, but someone like you're if you're going through that experience, and the same with Expedition, you were tolerating it because the other aspects of the game were so good. So with Final Fantasy, of course, they're gonna just look at it and be like, "Why put that pressure on them? Just go the easy route. Just do the action-based combat." And look what it done. It broke into spaces that they didn't see before, and appealed to fans that wouldn't have otherwise touched it. And that's what you need to try and do in this climate.
Well, and it's
Cast as
like
wide as a net.
the funny thing about that loan is, it's whatever. So the funny thing about that is like people doing the whole thing of, well, this proves Final Fantasy should go turn-based, man. They got to go back to their roots, man. Final Fantasy VII sold more on one platform than Expedition 33 did on all platforms. It's like, eh, guys, just because something is below, and Expedition 33 sold incredibly well, but Final Fantasy, they don't. Final, Square is disappointed with the results they're getting now with the
Yep.
action oriented, appealing to a wide, group of people. They're disappointing with the sales that they're having currently. They don't want Expedition 33 sales, guys. Like, I hate to break that to you, that they would look at that as a absolute disappointment unless they took a smaller team and had a smaller budget like a Final Fantasy Tactics style thing. If it's a much smaller scale endeavor, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that small, but yeah, maybe they would be fine with a 30-man team going and working on this as a $30 million project or whatever. But yeah, they Square is looking for CDPR numbers.
Yeah,
They're like, how the fuck do we get there? That's the thing that they're confused about. And they think the cracking the code is the action combat. That's a piece of the puzzle, but the bigger piece is, like you said, with Baldur's Gate 3, it's like, oh, well, I can go and bang 700 characters and I can equip all these different, it's like all this crazy degree of customization and agency and all of this shit. Like, that's the allure of a Baldur's Gate, of a Cyberpunk, of a Witcher. Um, and also just incredible narratives and all of those games. But yeah, man. So Bloober, they they took that Silent Hill 2 money and went and made their own Dead Space. Are they going to take the Silent Hill 1 money and go and make their own Dino Crisis? They're going to go and start killing some dinos and their third game?
that would be hilarious if they just if that was just their arc, just riding off of taking a Konami IP or whatever, even if they like powered up with Capcom and just were just like, yeah, man, and then we make you a remake of a beloved game, and then we go and mimic it ourselves. That would be
So damn
hilarious.
funny.
But yeah, it's yeah, they have to modernize it. It's gonna obviously play like two's remake, I assume. Don't go in expecting tank based controls. That would be unbelievably stupid because they need to make money. And in the climate, like you said, with Square doing it, like I was just looking up the Rebirth's budget was about 200 300 million. Claire's, it's not publicly published, but people are estimating it comes in around 20-ish million. So of course that's a massive difference. So they have to just
Yeah,
like I said, have to play it safe, and it's the same with this. If you want tank based stuff, it can only really survive in the indie space now. I don't. The difference is I could see maybe turn based JRPGs esque stuff clawing their way back into mainstream in a small portion of a way, not dominating and becoming frontline titles, but they have the ability to come back. I
hmm.
don't ever see tank based controls ever having a chance in hell because they're just
No.
too obtuse to handle.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, and like you said, like with turn-based games, people have been playing those consistently for the last few decades,
yeah.
with Pokemon or whatever, but people have not been playing tank-based games consistently since 2005 when RE4 kind of shook all that up. Um, but yeah, I'm excited for Bloober. I really hope they were get I imagine they got fucking paid to come back for Silent Hill 1 after the critical success and commercial success of Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
So hopefully they take that money
I
and
think
they go and
Konami's
make,
learnt their fucking lesson. Don't push your luck. If you have a
yeah,
winning formula, take that to the bank and squeeze it for everything it's got until it's you can't squeeze it anymore. It would be very
totally.
if they would have turned around and gone, oh, and then they've done that. We'll go make our own in house for the other ones. It's like no, don't just let them. If they're on a roll, just leave them to it. Don't rock that boat because you probably don't have the gusto to perform that.
Absolutely. Did you need to take a break before we hop on to the next story or
We can do 20 more minutes.
20 more? Got you. All right. So unfortunate, of course, story we're about to get into here with Sony laying off 30% of Bend, the Oregon-based developer, the Days Gone creators, the Siphon Filter creators, the Uncharted Golden Abyss creators, the one of like the OG PlayStation 1 studios, and 30% of their staff was axed after Sony killed their live service game that should have never in a million years been greenlit in the first place. And I think this is kind of the situation that I'm looking at it from where it bums me out so much because it's a scenario where this could have been totally avoided
Hmm.
if their first party wasn't being mismanaged to hell and back. And it's the thing that bums me out so much, Loon, is that you didn't even give them a chance. Like these developers lost their jobs before they were even really given a chance. Like they haven't released anything since Days Gone. And the thing that they released after there was such a shakeup at that studio and John Garvin and was it I'm forgetting the other guy's name, something Ross. And like key leadership left Sony Bend and there was a massive shakeup. And when they're trying to find their way of like establishing new identity for this studio, and I'm sure they were pitching games left and right to Sony, and the one that you end up landing on is the live service. It, it's so infuriating to me because a studio who is on shaky ground already, why not provide them some stability? With like, okay, let's go back to reboot Siphon Filter. Let's go back to, Days Gone 2. Let's do a Resistance spin-off game. Let's do a
Yeah,
fucking, an Uncharted spin-off game. Whatever it is, something stable that can be released in 4 years. Live service games are so fucking hard to get right. And so it's like you were just playing loosey goosey with these, you know, 30%, which I think it comes out to about 40 people or so, if my math is correct. But you're playing loosey goosey with these jobs of a studio that is in a state of flux. And I don't know. It's just really sad that these jobs were lost and they were never given a chance. Like that's such a fucking bummer. It's such a the mismanagement is going to be studied for years with what's going on at
yeah,
PlayStation right now.
yeah. No, because this is obviously, like you said, the Days Gone dev. I remember when that came out, and that was deemed a failure. That game. I didn't even think it sold all that poorly,
No, it's
really.
so great.
And they were touting it as if it was like the worst thing ever. And then obviously canning the sequel and stuff. And it's just like I don't like this doesn't even fall on them. This is you just going out of your way to sabotage them. And I don't understand why they would do that. Like, why put them on a live service game? Why cancel the sequel of a game that sold pretty well?
Over 10
Why
million copies.
remaster the game if you're not going to give it a sequel? All of these decisions just make no sense to me. And like you said, something that would have just been a no-brainer. If you don't want, if you felt okay, if you genuinely believed and you're doing your Square Enix impression and thinking that Days Gone is like the worst thing ever, deemed a failure, put them on a project that would have just been an easy bank, something simple, something to gain their confidence back. Put them on an IP, either that they've worked on in the past, or just a spin-off game. Give them the esque of a lost what was it, the Uncharted, what was the spin-off of
Lost
4?
Legacy.
That was it, Lost Legacy.
Yeah.
Something on that level, where it's something where they can just use that as a way of building up confidence again. Why throw them into a live service game, canning it, and then culling it? Just, yeah. I would love to know. I would have loved to have been in the room, like you say, the fly on the wall of when they were just greenlighting all of these live service projects, and just wondering how many people were like, "Yeah, great idea, boss." Like nobody sat there and thought, let's probably not do all of these at once. Why would that make any sense? It's just crazy.
The thing that bums me out so much too is like, listen, sure. If they put out Days Gone 2, because here's the thing as well. They finished up Days Gone in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Days Gone 2 would have been released by now,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so if the situation was Days Gone 2 comes out, it's a 64 on Metacritic, it's sold less than a million copies, then yeah, jobs are going to get cut. And that is a situation where it is performance based. It is a situation of, hey, we cannot employ, you know, we got to make cuts because our games aren't selling enough to just, there's no money coming in, and that's there's literally no money coming into Sony Bend right now. There's no game out there
No.
to it, but there was never even an opportunity for them to get a game to bring revenue into that studio to recoup the investment. There was never even a chance. If you gave them a chance and they failed, that's business. It's gonna fucking happen. You're gonna have to make cuts, whatever. But
It sold
no,
over 8
man,
million copies. You're having a laugh.
it's crazy.
How the. I,
A new IP at that.
it's just unfathomable to think that you could brand that as a failure and then just not let them have a sequel to that. It's just. I. Yeah, I would have loved to put a fly on the wall and just see the justification as to why you're going to put them on a live service game and not give them the ability to make a sequel.
Well, and the cool thing, like back then, PlayStation actually, they were in a way, I kind of commend that, where it's like you look at it as a failure because it wasn't a great, Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War level experience. And it's like that's fucking dope to have that high of a quality bar. But look at us now.
Mm.
Like, where's that quality now? Concord, that's the quality. Marathon, that's the quality. Fair Games, that's the quality. Like, so it's yeah. Um, I could go on and on. But I hope that those developers land a job in the industry. What I really hope is fucking uh, this is gonna sound dark, but like I hope that a lot of those motherfuckers just made a whole lot of money and can chill for a bit and find a job out of the industry. This AAA or can go start a indie thing or go join an indie thing. But even there, that's not like it just does not seem like a secure employment fucking I don't think that game development in 2025 is unless you're working on the Call of Duty yearly, the NBA yearly, the fucking if you're working on one of those annualized and we shit on those games all the time, but
They're money makers.
that seems like the only secure employment in the games industry, man.
Yeah, as long as you're not a QA tester for them,
Mm,
they happily
yeah,
call them. But yeah, if you're a part of that core dev team, they don't usually trim them in anywhere in comparison frequently to every other kind of game in the industry. It's crazy, like you said.
absolutely. Well, what's the time looking like, Loon? Another story
Quarter
or
two, yeah, we
pause it?
can we can roll one more up,
One more.
or is this going to be a
Um,
long one?
uh, Probably shouldn't be that long, and we can obviously pause in the middle of it or
All right,
whatever.
cool.
And Resident Evil 9 is getting the preview rounds. The previews are going up. Some people have had a hands-on experience. Some people had a presentation that they were able to watch, and yeah, I'm seeing the main thing that I was excited about from the preview rounds that I saw was a lot of people saying that the cutscenes just looked fucking badass. Like it almost looked like FMV. And that was kind of the main takeaway that I saw from people where they were like really blown away by. Because everything other than that I saw in terms of the previews was people being like, yeah, it looks like Resident Evil 7 and kind of, run around and first person. You can swap to third person. That's I guess a cool detail that we should probably
Yeah,
lead with
yeah,
is you can play
gotta
first and third.
because that's been supported in their other games with what is it, Village and stuff, but that was post added. This is going to be day one, right? Supported,
Yep,
which
day
is
one. Hmm.
hats off to them. They, yeah, and with you saying that it looks great as well, dude, their in-house engine is amazing. Like this RE engine is cracked. It can seemingly do anything other than
Dragon's Dogma
Dragon's
2
Dogma
was
2.
rough.
That's what I was getting at. They've perfected it for RE, and I think that's where it should stay. Um, because like you'll see, even in the snippets that we've seen, it looks damn good. And
Hmm.
I can't wait to get my hands on it. And the fact that they have that much confidence in now releasing it as a third and first person, they dot straight away. That just shows how much like they've mastered their engine, and it's so refreshing to see Capcom on a win streak with Resident Evil, because it's kind of had a rocky history from time to time. They have a tendency to face plant, and they haven't really done that. Obviously, their spin-off games, the multiplayer things that they've kind of put in with ReVerse and Resistance, didn't they? Thankfully, they didn't prioritize them. They were just tagged on and then cut support for them. So they're mainly focusing on the mainline titles in the way that you should, instead
Hmm.
of the live service that's an afterthought for them, and I commend them for that.
And I think that one of the coolest details that I saw in the previews was a lot of people probably didn't play this game, but it's a game called The Chant, and
Mm.
it has a feature where if you like dodge too many times back to back, your character will trip.
Oh,
And in Yeah, it's really cool. It's so horror movie like
yeah.
cliche, just perfect, perfect to be implemented into a game. It's such a level of you have to be so careful about spamming that because when you're scared, the first thing you want to do is spam dodge to get away, get away, get
Mm.
away. But then you trip. And so supposedly they're implementing that into Resident Evil 9. So it's cool. I love that. I love I have a lot of confidence in developers who are looking at smaller parts of the industry and taking influence there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of the truly innovative shit isn't taking place on the AAA level. And a lot of the really interesting game mechanics aren't necessarily being created in the AAA space.
Mm.
Um, you know, I think that because you're playing as the daughter of a character from Outbreak. Um, Alyssa Ash or no, Alyssa, let's see. I think I wrote it down. You're
Ashford
playing
or
as
Ashcroft? It's one of the two.
Yeah, Ashford is from Code Veronica. Ashcroft is from Outbreak. The you're playing as Grace Ashcroft, and the mother is Alyssa Ashcroft, and you're going to investigate a murder that was your mother was murdered at this hotel. So you're going back and trying to investigate something else that took place at this hotel, and there's some trauma related there, and so they led up to all that in the trailer.
Yep.
But I find it really interesting that they're leading with Resident Evil Outbreak lore. Like, what is the that are we gonna because I could see a scenario where it's like a flashback. Are you gonna be playing as Alyssa Ashcroft? Is it gonna be leaning more into Outbreak lore? I think Outbreak is, if we're actually looking at what Resident Evil could be in terms of a multiplayer experience in 2025, I think Outbreak is kind of that thing where it's a actual story driven experience, but you can hop on with different people and get different experiences based on the choices you make. And like, I don't know, I think there's something really cool that could be done there. I'm not a big Outbreak guy. I like Outbreak 1 and 2, but I those aren't like pinnacle of Resident Evil in my opinion or anything like that. But I do think it could come back in a really cool way. So very interesting that they're leading with Outbreak lore.
Yeah. The thing I want to also point out as well, and I can't remember who. I don't think it was Jeff. I think Jeff Keighley retweeted it. Did you see the person who, when they did the Requiem thing, and the face, and then they plastered it on a PlayStation One cover, and it fit
Hmm.
perfectly. It was like, whoa, that is. I like that. I like that a lot. It shows that it almost feels like a nod back to that era, and being like, we're you know we're still there. We still care about keeping it in that tone. Don't worry, guys. Because there's been kind of campiness to the games in some form, and they do seem to try and target a little bit more of a serious tone now. So it'll be interesting to see if that's. I think it's going to be fairly serious in what they're going with.
So it's the same director as Resident Evil 7,
Hmm.
and from a lot of the previews, people are saying it has a very Resident Evil
Mm.
7 atmosphere, just that sort of coding. And I, so here's my worry. Okay, well, first I'll present you with my theory and then I'll present you with my worry. My theory is that Grace's gameplay is going to be primarily first person in terms of the intended experience. Like you'll obviously be able to switch, but I think it'll be crafted for a
Yeah.
Resident Evil 7 style, very little action, a lot of intense horror, jump scare, stuff like that. And then I think you'll play as Leon, where he ends up having to come in and, save the day, old fucking Leon Superman Kennedy. And then his gameplay will all be based around third person. And so I think that that's kind of my theory. My worry is that if it was because the pretty much everything that people saw was first person. My worry is that the gameplay is RE7 adjacent, and RE7 is a great game. And I I bought a copy of it the other day because I want to replay it. That's kind of to my point with the worry though, is RE7 is a game I don't replay because I don't think the gameplay is all that fun. And that's the
Ooh.
stickiness of Resident Evil is like Resident Evil just has such fun and gameplay. That's why people replay these games like I'll never replay a Silent Hill. But Resident Evil's so fun and silly and campy. You just jump in, shoot some shit. You're having a good time. Silent Hill is oppressive. And but here's the thing. I am totally fine if you're going extremely fucking dark, extremely fucking scary, just make it worth it. Is my thing. Like if you're gonna lean in, man. Make it to where you can barely play 30 minutes of this thing without fucking, having nightmares and shit. And obviously that'll range from person to person, but I don't find Resident Evil 7 to be scary enough to justify the kind of lackluster gameplay at times.
No, that's interesting because there's a lot of people who really enjoyed replaying it. And I obviously toss his name out a lot, but Yahtzee, when he did his review, he said that, RE4 he could replay again and again and again, but he would never replay Resident Evil 7 because it doesn't have that, something doesn't stick with him to want to
Mm-mm.
replay it, unlike RE4 where he's replayed it tons and tons of times. And I found that very interesting because I've seen tons of people who happily like they speed run it and stuff like that, and they do challenge runs, and there's certain things where you can definitely squeeze the game, but I think for the average player, yeah, there's not really much replay there because I never ended up replaying. I wanted to, I had in my head, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna 100% it, and then when I was done with it, it was just like I don't really want to replay it. I don't have that like drive to want to go back to it. Um, so yeah, then because I'd much rather replay Village. I think that
Exactly.
I think the I think it's because of
The
the
enemy design.
location switch up as well because it was constantly changing. Whereas for 7, it's primarily in the house, and as cool as
Mm.
that is, it's very Metroidvania esque. You can look at it that way, but I don't know. It's a fairly dull experience when you look back on it and be like, it's not a castle. It's not this. It's not shifting it that drastically and stuff like that. So yeah, I could understand that.
And the enemy design is just horrendous. It's the
Oh yeah,
worst in the franchise's history.
the gloopy monsters, whatever the fuck they were called, the mold.
That's my reason that I don't go back. I love the house. I love the Baker family. I love all of that. But like I don't want to kill those fucking things. That's just not enjoyable to me. But yeah, I saw you whenever I was talking about the perspective swapping with Leon being more third person over the shoulder centric and Grace being more first person centric. I saw you had like a thought. It felt like you had something that I don't want to cut away from that. If
Oh
you had something that
no,
you
yeah,
you
I was thinking like, do you think because you was giving your like theory? I'm wondering if this is going to be like a Revelations 2 thing then. If there's going to be two characters, is this going to be back forth, back forth, back forth, or is it going to be like other games where you primarily play as what did you say? Grace was the name. You play
Hmm.
Grace for 80% of the game, and then only Leon for 20. Because I think that would kind of piss people off if they pulled something like that. But when you're doing it back and forth like that, it has to be perfectly paced, and you have to be changing at the exact moment as to when you should. And it's kind of like when you're doing dual protagonists like that, if that's going to be what they're going for, it's very difficult to tell a story that way because I really, really love Revelations too. I I think the pacing was kind of when you're constantly having to bounce back and forth between characters and stuff because they have their own gameplay elements and stuff that you're having to take into account, which then kind of makes a difference in gameplay. And it's like, yeah, it's nice to shift it up and stuff, but I'm just trying to think of if it was in the middle of Village and then you're forced into playing like a completely different section for like 3 to 4 hours and how jarring that would be.
So what I think is going to happen is the opening is going to, this is once again theoretical horseshit. I think the opening is going to be you play as Grace
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably 3 hours, 2 hours playing as Grace. You swap to Leon, play, you know, the same kind of. I could see you swapping to Leon and not going back at all to Grace. I think that could be a scenario where Grace opens up the first 3, 4 hours. You play as her, you get, trapped into some sort of situation. Leon comes in, saves the day. I think a really cool theory. I saw a Maximilian dude float this out, and obviously this has been confirmed that it's not the case at this point, but I think the theory really is very interesting. And it still could kind of play out in just in a different way. He before he saw the game, he said a theory of his was playing as Grace in first person, Leon in third, Jill with tank based, like, static camera. I think that could be really fucking interesting, just as like a little slice of the game because
Yeah,
they did that in Alone in the Dark.
yeah. I was also thinking as well, if there's a dual protagonist, it was neither of us mentioned this. Could there be a scenario where this is like an RET remake? You only get to play as Leon for the whole of that game, or you play as Claire for the whole of that game. Could that be also a scenario where it's split kind of that way? Do you think they would be able to get away with that?
No, I don't think narratively it would make much sense for Leon and Grace to be in the same scenario doing the same things. Whereas with Claire and Leon, because they let it in with the whole car wreck um
Hmm.
and they changed it up a little bit for the remake, but they were in the same place at the same time. Like Leon I don't think he'll be working with that FBI organization. He definitely won't be an analyst. He definitely won't have the ties to Alyssa Ashcroft and the hotel and all that.
Yep.
So I think it might be a little bit tough to line that up.
Okay.
Um, but I think most likely that what I want is to have very different scenarios for each character and then to close off with Leon and Jill having some sort of interaction for the first time ever in a Resident Evil game because Jill
Have
is
they never?
from never the two biggest characters, not once. It's and Jill's from
Wow.
she's from Raccoon City, and so they're going back to Raccoon City. Leon obviously a Raccoon City police
I love
officer.
it.
Yeah,
I
I
love
mean I
that
think
this you don't usually get a game that obviously you're much more of a lore buff than me. Damn,
yeah.
didn't know that.
I love the damn lore in Resident Evil, and I think people, yeah, listen, I that's the thing where people get so offended whenever people like make jokes about their favorite games and shit. Resident Evil is fucking stupid. Like the story, the lore, and all that shit is dumb as hell, but I just like it. You know what I mean? Like I get why people make jokes about it. It's the most ridiculous shit ever. It's how the fuck is all of this? It's crazy. Of course it's crazy, but it's whatever you like, you know what I mean? Whatever you end up connecting with. And it's also a nostalgia thing for sure. I was so
Yeah.
into it at such an early age and I just kept up with it my whole life. Um, but yeah, I love the lore for Resident Evil. But with that said, like there's still points of that lore that I'm just like, you could tell me anything about Outbreak characters. Like I'm not going to remember the name of fucking Alyssa Ashcroft. And then because when they first said Ashcroft, I thought they said Ashford, and I was like, oh shit, are we? Is this something Code Veronica
Mm.
related? Are we go? And then I was like, oh fuck, are we getting like a Code
Hype.
Veronica spinoff? Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm pumped to jump into this. I can't wait to. It's right around the corner. What, 7, 8 months away, something like that. So not a long wait.
Yep.
Cannot fucking wait to check this game out, man.
Yep. Cool. Right, we're gonna have to quickly pause that now.
Totally. All right, we are back in. We are back in. Fresh off a. If you notice a change in appearance, fresh off of a shower, hopped in the shower real quick as we took our little break there. It's at that point, man, where it's so hot in Alabama right now. You're talking broaching the hundreds, close to the hundreds on certain
Mm.
days. And I was just out early this morning. I mean, I'm talking like 8:30, 9 o'clock, doing a little yard work, putting some fucking ant poison on the ant beds and fucking just I came in like I mean I was out there for and this is 8, whatever in the morning. I was out there for 30, 45 minutes. I come inside and I'm like fucking actually sweating. Um,
That's
it's
Fahrenheit, right?
mm-hmm.
What did you say it was?
Well, let's look right now. It was early in the morning, so it wasn't that hot, but like right now, for instance, it's 88.
38
And it's
degrees. Fuck that.
yeah,
Fuck that.
it's brutal. And I know y'all's infrastructure really isn't like because I remember there was I don't remember exactly
That's
what.
all we got, baby.
Yeah. And it's the same with us for like the opposite. For like it snowed for the first time in over a decade.
Mm.
Well, not the first real snow in over a decade last year. And like, dude, if it would have lasted another couple days, we would have been fucked. We don't have all the infrastructure in place to like all the snow removal and the fucking the whole, the city comes in with the like we don't have any of that in place to prevent from you know, uh being pretty much shut inside with a massive snowstorm. And so it's like it's kind of the opposite on y'all's end, I'm guessing for heat, right?
Um, I don't think, if I'm being 100% brutal, I don't think we handle any natural disaster all that way. What we suffer from the most is floods, probably, I'd say
Mm,
most commonly. And you would think that even after all the years of having that, they would put something in place to prevent it, and it's still, it was Friday, I think. I think I posted it in the Discord. I didn't have to turn my light on in here at like 3 in the morning because the lightning was constantly happening. And then in the morning, they've obviously posted and been like, yeah, so like down the hill, it's all flooded and everything. And it's just like, how do we not have things in place? You know that it happens every time. Like, how is, where's all this money go? But yeah, we
yeah.
haven't got things in place for heat either. There's no. I don't think I've ever seen an air conditioning unit in my life, ever, in anyone's home. Like you see them out in like shops and stuff
Yeah.
and stuff. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen one in person at a house. It's just not
It just
something.
maxes out at like what's the hottest it gets in your area?
I can't remember what it was like. It was in the 30s. So what you're experiencing now, we have had
Yeah.
them, but obviously that's infrequent. Like it, it's the difference as well in humid temperatures and the differences of that. Like something can be technically the lower degrees, but it feel hotter. And that's the thing in England and stuff. Like it can sit around 20 to 25, but it's the moisture and it just makes you feel shit. It makes it feel
Hmm.
hotter. because you're sweating, but you're also wet from just
Hmm.
it's just a horrible feeling.
Yeah,
It's the same
yeah,
in
it's
like
the
Japan
same.
and stuff.
Yeah, it's very similar here. The humidity is just it's brutal. And the crazy thing is like it's just this is like right now we're early summer. It's just gonna keep getting hotter. We'll crack into the hundreds and shit. It's fucking rough, man. It is rough, but it's you know, it is what it is.
There's your one
I've pretty
ramble for
much
the
used to it.
ramble report. There you go, boys. Nothing
Yeah,
game
right.
related there.
Um, let's see, where did we close off? We closed off on Resident Evil 9.
Yep,
So next on the docket was old Nintendo, eh?
yep. One red to the
Still.
other.
Nintendo Switch 2 has sold 3.5 million units in the first 4 days of the console being on the market, being available for purchase. And that makes it the fastest selling video game console of all time. 80% of the people who bought the Switch 2 at launch also bought Mario Kart with it, probably making that, you know, one of the biggest exclusive day one launches in video game history.
Mm.
And it's it's funny, looking at it now, and I was a little bit skeptical of Mario Kart going into it. I'm like, is that the game? Is that really I because you think, okay, people go in and they buy Breath of the Wild and then they pick up a copy of Mario Kart. People go in and buy, but that's not the case. Mario Kart is the system seller. People want to play fucking Mario Kart more so than they want to play Breath of the Wild, more so than they want to play Mario Odyssey. Um, and I think this was a lesson for me to shut the fuck up when I'm analyzing my
I
my Mario Kart.
I don't think it's I wouldn't go that aggressively in that. I think what I've learned, I think it doesn't matter what the fuck they would have put out. The Switch was such a strong generation for them. They could have launched this with Splatoon and it would have met them same numbers. Like it's just they've not seen that dip like Xbox has had kind of thing. Like they were obviously riding extremely high. There was negative buzz around the Switch 2 for various different reasons and stuff like that. And people turning around going, "Oh, I'm gonna boycott it" and stuff. And then you see, yeah, clearly. I'm sure there are obviously people that did do that, but the majority of people couldn't care less about whatever controversy of whatever it is that was spiraling around, whatever you could pick at. They just want a new system. I think people also forget when did the Switch One release? It was like 2017.
17. Yep.
Like you're talking eight
Close to a
years,
decade.
8 9 years roughly. They just want something new. they want an upgrade. Even if it just means them playing Breath of the Wild and stuff like that. Like they just want that next thing because it's exciting to them. I think a lot of people that were very very negative on it are obviously the other fans of other consoles because Nintendo's never aligned with Xbox and PlayStation with releases. It's felt they've always done their own in their own realm. Xbox and
Hmm.
PlayStation usually release within a year of each other. They're kind of neck and neck. They directly compete with each other, and then Nintendo's just like, yeah, man, I'll release in the middle of your generation and just do my own thing. And that's exactly what they've done here. We're talking how many years have we been in for the PS5 gen and Xbox Series gen? Like, it's been a good amount of
5.
years now, and now
Yep.
they've entered their technical entry point into this generation. So yeah, I don't think it would have mattered what they would have come out with. I've seen people be a bit disappointed with Mario Kart though, as like when they're playing it, they're kind of like, could have been better. But Nintendo don't care. They broke records, man. They did exactly what they needed to do. They they smashed it. So tip of the hat to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I do think that I disagree a little bit with the idea that they could have came out with whatever. I don't think that would have been the case. Like I don't think that if they put this out and had like Splatoon wouldn't have had that attach rate. 80% of people wouldn't have bought Splatoon with the Switch 2. I think that that's the thing that I slightly underestimated the just mass appeal of Mario Kart and the consistency that that would stay relevant. Like I don't, I was like, well, yeah, this doesn't look incredible. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, is that going to kind of push people away from it? But it's Call of Duty. It's Grand Theft Auto. Mario Kart, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? It's the brand is so fucking big that like Splatoon and Kirby and all that, they can't get away with they can't get away with that. And it wouldn't have had that same attach rate for either of those games. Because I mean, you don't see that same attach rate for the other Switch 2 launch titles. There is something about that damn Mario Kart, and I get it. Like Mario Kart's fun as fuck. Totally understand. Totally understand. But it's wild. It's very, very wild to see the most successful fucking console launch in video game history. And and like you said, it is coming off the back of the Switch 1, which was so they're just so good at making games. You know what I mean? So good at making games so consistently. And every single like where Donkey Kong's on the way. Fucking they have a Splatoon spin-off game that's on the way. The Kirby is on the way at the end of the year. You're talking like you just eat so well if you prefer that system over anything else. It's the best place to it's the place you should be playing games if like that it's hands down the most bang for your buck. But it's just like if you don't prefer that stuff, like I don't prefer that stuff, I have no interest in any of those games. So I didn't buy the system. But like I look at it from an objective standpoint, and I'm like, that's if any of that looks appealing to you, buy that system. It's the most bang for your buck.
Yeah, it's because they target a specific type of audience. Though, because what I've learned over the years as well is that you they've never cared about keeping with like tech relevance. That's never they don't care about that whatsoever. And it's because they don't sell tech relevance, they sell nostalgia. That is what they do. They sell you that feeling, and that's what the Switch 2 was doing. That's why they brought out like Paul Rudd doing the whole thing of like trying to capture that feeling of childhood and familiarity and stuff like that. Because it's what they do. It's what they've mastered. And leading with, like you said, Mario Kart of I we both didn't think it would be something that you could lead, but it is, yeah. When you look back on it, it's kind of like, well, duh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's nostalgia. That is a shot of nostalgia. But as long as they ever for the remainder of time, as long as it's one of them things, a Zelda, a Mario, whatever it is, they can just have one of them titles as a launch title, and it's probably going to keep breaking records because they
Yeah.
just they just excel in it.
They also excel at game design as well, though. They excel at finding fun more than probably any of the other first party providers. Like you look at something like for sure the open world looks bland, but when I see clips of people wall riding in a fucking Mario Kart game and then jumping into like a kick flip grinding on a rail. It's like what the y'all just find fun. They find fun over there and prioritize fun over fidelity. And like it's the thing I wish any of those games were appealing to me. You know what I mean? Like I wish that those games were appealing to me because I do know that that's the best box to buy. You know what I mean? Like you if that stuff appeals to you, you're getting it constantly and at such a high quality bar that like it's no it's no brainer why it's doing so well. You know, you look at the upcoming slate of games and you're like, well, yeah, I'll buy it now because I even if you don't want to play Mario Kart, which you do, but even if you don't want to play it, even if you say you don't want to play it, you do, obviously. Um, but you want to play Donkey Kong, you want to play Kirby, you want to play the new Splatoon thing. They're gonna have a 3D Mario game next year, probably. The new Zelda game will come the year after. Like, there's no doubt that the quality is gonna keep being there for you to feast upon. Like, they provide great video games, so consistently that are you can only play it on that thing. And it's like, so yeah, you're gonna sell like fucking hotcakes when you can only play great games on that thing.
Yeah, and obviously a big. I don't think people look at this as big as probably they should. Nintendo's very struggled with third party relationships, getting big names on their console. You know, that Call of Duties and stuff. Whenever there was Call of Duty on like the Wii, but it wasn't a 1-to-1. It had to be its own weird morphed thing. The same with like Dead Space and stuff. And then you had a bunch of people that just can't remember who it was. It might have been Ubisoft that supported them in the Wii U era, but a bunch of them shunned them. But like Cyberpunk, that's a massive like I know people poked fun at it being like, oh well, it's a X-year-old game, that's a pretty big get for them because that shows that they can then go out and get some more relevant if they can get Cyberpunk running on the Switch 2, there's a lot of other titles that they can get running on that Switch 2 now. And that allows them to keep up. So yeah. I don't even think they're
Yeah, I
gonna
mean,
have to cut corners as much as they have done in the past. I think they can kind of keep up a little bit.
I believe it was a someone at CDPR said it's the best place to play it handheld is on the Switch 2. And it's like, you can't even really make these performance arguments for the other handheld devices anymore. Obviously open with emulation and stuff like that, but it's yeah, it's going to be an incredibly successful generation as long as the quality of the first party content stays at a really high clip.
Mm.
Um, which we don't really have any reason to believe it won't. So,
One moment.
let's
Hold
see.
on. She's
All right, so from old Switch 2 on over to the PC side of things, which is an area we probably should cover a little bit more on here. I know neither of us necessarily have a ton of passion for that space, but this is a really cool endeavor, and I'll let you take it away, Loon, about GOG and their mod support that they're introducing in a much more clean capacity.
Yeah, so they obviously well known for the storefront of being um, very preservation focused. So they've got all a bunch of old games over there that they've. I can't remember the exact wording for it of what they call it. It might just be good old games. There's a certain criteria thing where they basically go for an old game and they do the tweaking for you and just get it to run so much more seamlessly on modern hardware, which is something where that was a pain in the ass a few years back. So that's already like brownie points, and now they've gone that extra step. And for something like, as an example, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, that's obviously an old game, and they've made it work, and they've gone that extra mile of also now doing just basically one-click mods. So you have the unofficial patch for Bloodlines, which fixed a lot of the game's shortcomings and fixed up performance things and stuff like that. And instead of having to jump through hoops of going through files and getting this to run and then running into crashes and stuff and making sure that you're tweaking it, they've basically done that back back end work for you and are treating it as if you're on PlayStation. You go through your game, you install the game, and then you just install a DLC. And that's incredible. That doesn't get enough. Like, they're not charging for this either, which is crazy. Like, this is all free
Yeah.
if you own the game. It's a piece of service that you can just utilize if you wish. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that is fucking awesome, man. And if I ever made the jump to PC, I think that would probably be my storefront that I frequented the most because the idea of buying a DRM free product digitally is kind of a foreign concept outside of GOG.
Yep,
Um,
and that's also another, yeah, tip of the hat. Like, you buy the game on there, and it functions like any other storefront, but they also give you the offline key thing as the way you can just pull that onto a hard drive, and that's it. If anything ever happens and you can still use it. It's such a good thing to have. It's crazy.
yeah, absolutely, man. Um, so shout out and I know they preserved Alpha Protocol. That was one of their
Yeah,
their recent ones that they
yeah.
had in their preservation program. I was like,
Um,
fuck yeah.
Yeah, and it's got like fairly good. Um, it was treated fairly well, which is really awesome. But can't remember what it was recently that got added. Um,
Oh,
what was it? I'm trying to flick through it now.
they got Resident Evil in there, the two and three. That was the first place to have those available. And then they also had um the was it damn, I'm blanking.
Trying to. I will say, as much as I love them, their storefront itself to like navigate through is a bit. Right, here we go. So you have, where is it? GOG Preservation Program. Can you see more, please? Here it is. It was a bunch of Warhammer games. That was it. Chaos Gate
Nice.
and stuff. Chaos Gate, Fire Warrior, Rights of War. All these just got added. And then Battlefront, Dark Forces. And I think you vote on these as well, which is really cool. They have like a vote to be like, if we're going to do this, what ones are you going to want to see? Because Breath of Fire 4 that was it. The one I was trying to think of. That was when I saw the voting thing get announced. Because obviously this is a new storefront for me to come back to. So that's really cool.
That is so fucking awesome, man. So shout out to you, Gog. I I don't know, man. I think there will be a day, and it might be the Xbox ROG fucking X Ally, whatever the fuck. That might be the thing that I end up buying because I have been in the market for one of these things just because I want to emulate SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. It's like I just want to play old games. It's really I should just buy the cheapest fucking Steam Deck available, but I don't know. There is something about I can't lie. To their point, there is something about the Xbox branding that makes me want to buy that more than an Asus ROG Ally without the Xbox branding or a Steam Deck without like I don't know what that is. Maybe it's my trust not that I fucking trust Xbox or PlayStation or whatever, but it's like I don't know. I feel like that if something's totally fucking borked with it, um there might be some line of communication there that's a little bit simpler than trying to contact the four employees that work at Valve.
Yeah, which don't get me wrong though, I will tip my hat to them. They very good at what they do, Valve.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
when you reach out to them, they will fix your problem. However understaffed they are compared to a lot of other places.
Hmm.
Um, I think as well, I don't like it's the fact that they're presenting it as in the same way of like GOG, where they're simplifying shit a lot more than the Steam Deck, because it was presented as tweak it and do whatever you want, like crack it, break it in any which way you want to do, and make it do whatever you want it to do. Whereas they're turning around and like we're going to put on its own Windows, Xbox based like operating system and everything. We're doing a lot of the work for you and just a pick up and play esque thing. So,
Hmm.
and I think that's what you kind of value a lot more. You're not gonna
Yes.
want to dive into the weeds and sit there and be like, yes, this shader and that, and this and that. So, yeah, it's gonna obviously be
Well,
very steep, but I could. It's again the thing of like I could see it appealing though with what it's trying to do. If they can market it properly, you've seen with people bitching and whining about the price of the Switch, and that's still sold like hotcakes. I think,
hmm
and it's the same with $80 games and stuff like that. If it's something that people truly want, with like a GTA 6, if that came out and was presented as 80, 100, you'd have people turn around going, I'm boycotting that, but that would still be the fastest selling game because there would be people that would want it. So as long as they
hmm
can spend these next few months and actually show what the thing can do in a very good manner and not just leave, if they're just going to have announced it and just basically show nothing on it and just try and ride off of, oh, it's our name, Xbox. Yeah, your name doesn't hold any weight. I'm sorry, it really doesn't. It doesn't. You've always struggled trying to sell your product. You got to do something. So hopefully they do that.
Yeah, it's weird because it does hold more weight than like Steam, where and I know that's a weird thing, but like if you just in terms of man on the street style scenario, walked up to a random mom at a baseball field and you were like video games, word association. the first three things that come to mind would be PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox. Like nobody would say Steam unless you were entrenched
Unless
in
your
the
son
ecosystem.
was, yeah, big into PC gaming and you've had to buy them Steam gift cards and stuff like that, then yeah. But you
Hmm.
don't. That's the thing. You don't usually give your kid a fucking $2,000 PC
Yeah,
or have them build a PC. It's just not something you usually get them a console because I'm not trusting an 8 year old to put together a piece of equipment like that.
right. Yeah, it's gonna be really really interesting. I obviously don't think it'll do well, but I but I don't even know what that means. You know what I mean? Not to go back into this, open this bag back up, but it is. I don't even know what that means, and I think that's the thing that's the most confusing. I guess is like if you think the Xbox Series X is a failure because it only attracted 30 million people, I got bad news for you, buddy.
Yeah,
If
it's
it's not gonna get 10% of that.
no. I'm very intrigued in watching his reaction and Phil's reaction, Sarah Bond's reaction, and seeing like if they have their head in the clouds, like if they're going in the mindset and being like, yeah, man, we're gonna match the set. Like, no, you're not. You're not gonna get to 30 million. You're not gonna get to 1 million. Like, you'll be blessed to get 500,000, and that's probably pushing it. It's gonna be a very slow selling thing. And
Yeah.
what I'm going to be interested in watching is not only their reaction, are they going to support it? If they look at it and see it sells 100,000 units in its opening 6 months, is that going to be something that they just go, well, screw this, we're out? Or are they seeing
Well,
enough buzz because they've allegedly cancelled their own
yeah, we'll go ahead and go into
in-house
that.
in-house handheld? So is that this is the thing of like the two branching things. This can either be it's got to be one of the two extremes. Like you're either getting a shitload of good feedback of that thing, and it's like, well, there's no point in making our own because we can just ride off of this success, or you're seeing the writing's already on the wall and no one's going to buy that handheld.
Yeah.
There is no middle ground. Because it was already weird when they announced it. It was like, why are you building your own if you're partnering? Like that doesn't make any sense. It made no
Hmm.
sense whatsoever, and that didn't inspire confidence in me when I
Right.
heard that. And then seeing that they've decided, and I'm sure it's going to be a good handheld.
Oh
It's
yeah,
going to
the
be a
ROG is
very,
supposedly.
yeah, it's going to be a very good handheld, but it didn't inspire confidence in me that you chose to go with them instead of yourself because that doesn't,
Hmm.
you shouldn't be in this space if you have no faith in your own stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm
What
just watching with just intrigue more than anything.
It's definitely the most like fascinating piece of tech that's on the horizon. There's no doubt about that. But I do think that what likely happened was they greenlit this project after seeing the buzz around the Steam Deck before official data came back. You know what I mean? Where once the official data comes back and you're like, oh, like there's a couple
What
people,
the
a couple
hell have
million.
we done?
Yeah. You there's a couple million people who really, really like this thing and they'll tell you about it a lot. But like you, Xbox, Microsoft isn't in the business of a couple million anything. You know what I mean? Like they want that they wanted dominance in the gaming space. Like that was their whole initiative. They wanted to dominate this fucking market. And for a stretch there, they did, man. They were I remember, here we fucking go. Back in my day, but I swear to God, like I'm not bullshitting. There was a period of time where people would just say, yeah, I'm going to, like it would be he's on the Xbox or Xbox was gaming for like this brief period of time. People wouldn't say, yeah, they're playing the game. They're playing the Xbox. Or it wouldn't be they're playing the Nintendo, they're playing the PlayStation, they're playing like Xbox was just synonymous. Well, he's always on that Xbox. And it might not have even been an Xbox. You know what I mean? Like it was just synonymous with gaming for that period of time where they really did have dominance over the market. But yeah, it's like I think that it was greenlit with there was such appeal by that small user base for a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally or whatever. And then it kind of becomes a thing where it's like, oh, well, what if we put it, what if we market this better? What if we have it in all the storefronts? And then the ROG Ally comes out and it's in the storefronts and it's still not getting purchased. And it's like, at that point, I do understand Xbox being like, okay, we have the fucking data right here. Let's just partner with Asus, let them price it however they want that fits the bill for the expenses that they're putting into this, the funds that they're putting into this, and hopefully we can, satisfy the demand for our player base who wants to have a handheld experience.
Yeah, it's like I said, when all this is out and it's released, I'm also intrigued in like what the breakdown is. Are they just fully benefiting off of the hope of like you pick it up and you get software sales on their Xbox storefront?
Right, right.
Because I'm not being I don't want to be rude. It's the weakest PC storefront. So if you're going in and you're turning around and going, yeah, you can put Steam on it and this on it, when they pick it up, if you've got nothing, if you're getting no profit from the unit itself, and a huge percentage of people that will be picking it up probably won't interact with your storefront, what I don't understand. How do you make your money? It just
Exactly.
it's just bizarre.
And I guess it's through Game Pass, but it's like you said, Loon, if the market is so small,
They did
I feel
say,
like the only
I think they did say it comes paired with it. So maybe that's their hope. When you're buying it, it comes with like a sub a sub already on it, essentially, that you
oh
activate.
Jesus.
Kind of
Oh, that you
like
still pay for.
I think they give you like it's the same thing with like when you with this what I had.
They
Uh
give you a couple months or a year or whatever.
The Lenovo it's got a Nvidia card in it. So when you boot up the Nvidia app, it has you have a 3 month of PC Game Pass that you can claim.
Mm,
And I think
got it.
it's probably going to be something like that. So they're hoping that people utilize it and then get hooked in that way. But this is the thing. They were talking, like we've said time and time again, 100 million subscribers was their aim. What, you're going to get like 20,000 extra? Is that really? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
it's like I said, it's just intrigue, man. I want to know how well this sells. I want to know how they react to it, and just yeah, very interested.
I genuinely do think if they took the hit on their own handheld, charged $500 for it, and you're looking at Indiana Jones and Call of Duty and Avowed and Clockwork Revolution and like that's the thing that's like left out of this conversation oftentimes is it's funny listening to people in the media who have this like Xbox from the Xbox One era, they still talk about Xbox in that same capacity and it's like bro, you're a little bit behind the times, my guy. Like they are the best publisher in gaming. They put out more high quality games than anyone other than like Nintendo. Like they are on a fucking they've been cranking out crazy high quality and at a consistent clip their first party output. And so it is the thing where it's like the old thing of Xbox has no games. That is no longer the case. So if you did have the pitch of here are all these games for $20 a month and you can buy a $400 thing and that's your only investment right there, 400 plus your $20 a month subscription, 500 plus your $20 a month subscription, like I think you could get to maybe a mass market level with that handheld, but I, do you take that risk? That's the thing. It's like,
That's the thing. They
fuck,
took
do
the
I take
risk with
that
the
risk?
Series S, didn't they? Because that's kind of the mindset that they wanted with that. It's obviously not portable, so it can't do that. But that was their mindset of give people a very low entry point into that generation, and the allure would be Game Pass, and it didn't work. I think that's why they've just chosen to just let them do whatever the rumor is. What, $900?
Yeah.
They're just like, there's no point in going low because it doesn't work. So the people that are gonna buy it, they're gonna buy it. They're gonna buy it if it's 1,000. They're gonna buy it if it's whatever. Like, so yeah, it's just yeah, very strange.
Yeah, when you get into those numbers, there's really no difference between 1,000 and 1,500. And like, I know it sounds crazy, but it really is like it's so much fucking money that it kind of becomes irrelevant,
Yeah,
the
because
$500 difference.
once it breaks out of the normality of what you expect, when you think of consoles, you think there's nothing that will ever cost more than 500
No.
for a lot of people. That's when you think of it, you're like, okay, 499. Yeah, that's probably the cutoff price for console based esque gaming hardware and stuff. So when it gets to 900, people are like, Jesus Christ. But if they were to crank it higher and higher and higher, it just, yeah, it then makes no difference because you've already ripped that band aid off.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Like I don't obviously I don't want the thing to fail. What I really, really I definitely don't want it to fail. I don't want any of the shit to fail. What I really, really don't want to fail though, like if we're weighing it in the spectrum of like I don't honestly give a fuck if the handheld does well, doesn't do well, as long as the next Xbox PC hybrid actual thing, the actual console, I hope that does well. That's like my big hope because I guess it's the reality. I know the handheld isn't going to do well, but I do think that this PC Xbox console hybrid thing, I think that could be what keeps them in the market, and I hope that's what keeps them around.
Mm. It all depends on execution because that handheld is, if you look at it for a certain perspective, is doing that already, right? Isn't it? It's letting you play your Xbox games and the PC. It's obviously
See,
restricting it to a handheld.
if they had a portability, if they had that portability as like a functionality, and then they had the Switch dockable thing where it's just super easy, plug it, boom, it's docked, it's run into your TV, you don't have to do a bunch of weird configuration, that could be a fucking huge selling point.
I don't know if it has. It must have because the Steam Deck, you can plug it in, right?
You can dock it, but it's not like that simplicity
Okay, yeah,
of
of
yeah.
where it, yeah. No, I get that. What you're saying. It's so easy because it has its own docking station that comes paired with the console. It's not an
Hmm.
option purchase. It's
Right.
built into its core functionality. Yeah.
And it's not like I do think the operating whatever the OEM or whatever where you're able to actually run all that with a controller and not have to do the weird touch screen and not like there's things that they are making it sound more appealing to a broader audience, but $900 is just never going to be a broader audience purchase point. Like it doesn't matter what we inflate our costs up to, it's just never going to be appealing to the average consumer.
Nope.
Um, but yeah. So anywho, we'll see, man. I'm really hoping for that PC Xbox hybrid thing to do well. I do not want PlayStation being the only fucking player in the high fidelity console gaming experience. That would be absolutely catastrophic. So we
Yep.
shall see.
It's always good to have
2027.
competition. So hopefully that sticks around.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I hope they at least try it, at least just launch it. Because it's already years in development. Like at least just put the fucking thing out there. Because I did get a little bit worried when they canceled that handheld, or reportedly, allegedly canceled the handheld. It's like fuck, man. Please don't cancel the next core console. Um, whatever that thing is going to be. Don't cancel the Xbox Series Y, please. But we appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. This has been the Ramble Report episode, whatever the hell episode it is. We shall be back next week and try to hit for getting this uploaded on a Friday or so to recap all the news.
Yep.
We try to hit those Fridays, Thursdays, Fridays, somewhere in that range, but obviously, this isn't our full-time gig, so life is going to life sometimes, and we'll keep it consistent as can be with the scheduling here. So we appreciate y'all, and definitely check out Loon's channel in the description below. And yeah, man, hit us in the comments with your thoughts on the week of gaming, trying to catch up on the old Summer Game Fest fallout. So let us know your thoughts on this handheld thing. That's kind of
Yeah.
the probably the main talking point of the week. I'm really curious to hear what people think about it. Like, is there here's going to be my question for y'all. What is it going to take to get that to a larger audience? And not to go back into it again, but there is like a cheaper Steam Deck available, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind. I
They
don't know what it's gonna take.
they have their own because you can only buy it through Steam officially, like as a thing.
Mm,
They also have their own refurbished thing, which Trey put me on the radar of, where they're even cheaper. And because it's all also done through Steam as well, they sell out instantly. Like they're so
mm,
hard to get a hold of when they're refurbished because they're basically brand new because they do such incredible work at making sure that everything gets patched up and everything. And then it's like $100 and something cheaper from whatever base model it is, and it's crazy. Um, that that's the difference, isn't it? They immediately get snapped up because that's so much cheaper. So I'm wondering if maybe the handheld could possibly benefit their marketing strategy with the Series X, Series S. Maybe they could have probably implemented that with the ROG thing. But there is two ROGs, right? Already in thing. Is there? Are they not mimicking that?
mm.
Are they just going with one, or do we not
The
know?
other, the other $600,
Yeah.
more than your Series X. Fucking crazy, dude.
Okay. Well, that defeats that purpose of the argument. I wasn't even trying to argue it. It's just giving like a thing of a point of thread of
It's
logic. Yeah, that's
expensive,
okay.
man.
Yeah, they are dreamers.
Hey, I guess yeah. Well, we'll see if there's a wake up call in order, but it's it is cool tech. Like it's undeniably cool tech. So hit us in the comments, let us know, like let us know, do you have any interest in one of these things?
Yeah.
And if you do, just, drop your credit card information and your social security number and all of that, and we'll hack that multi-million-dollar account you got sitting there. Because if you were buying this, you got some fucking cash, boy. I envy anybody that's looking at this as like an actual purchase where they're like, yeah, I
Day
can,
one
that's no big
pre-order,
deal.
baby. Let's go. Founders edition.
And boy, if I buy this thing, like I PayPal is going to be doing a lot of work with their 12-month no interest fucking whatever that they, hey, no
Carrying that
way
baby.
I am not
Yep.
dropping $1,000 pulling that shit out of my account. I'll be left crying. But we appreciate y'all for tuning in, and hit us in the comments with all your thoughts on all this stuff. RE9, the Outer Worlds $280. A lot of, man, it's just the best. This industry is just the fucking best in terms of course, a lot of negative information there, but so much shit to talk about. Like it's so fun to cover.
Yeah.
It's just so fun to cover. So, Luna, I appreciate you for joining me as always. Always fucking great, great, great video game discussion with you, man. And hope y'all enjoyed it at home as well. A long one, long ass ramble report. So you had to wait a couple days, but you're getting more bang for your buck,
There
and
you
your
go.
buck is $0. We
You
appreciate
ain't
y'all,
putting
and
that
we'll see.
towards them ROG allies, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're trying. Hey, we're keeping things cheap over here so that you can afford your $900 ROG Ally purchase. But yeah, man, hit us in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on all this good stuff, and we shall see you next week. Goodbye.
See you later.